Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Chilluminati podcast, episode 329. As always, I'm one of your hosts, Mike Martin, joined by my brand new little alien gray converts, thanks to Steven Spielberg's Disclosure Day trailer.
We're all doomed. We're all doomed. Popcorn. Just pop popcorn in a microwave, and that's roughly the sound effect.
Yeah, it's pretty spot on, actually, if you think about it.
I'm way more excited for that than I am for fucking Age of Disclosure.
Me too.
All right. It's Spielberg, so you know it's going to be great on like a movie making level.
Yeah.
But on a like societal level, I am bracing for the amount of armchair ufologists.
It's too late.
Who are just about to be like, I can't even go on subreddits now because people are like, disclosure is it's happening. Steven Spielberg is working with the government to let people. I'm like, no.
Like,
he's going to show up, and then Zack Snyder's Superman is going to appear.
Henry Cavill will once again be the Witcher, and everything will be fine. The world will return to 2019.
Warhammer.
No, that's actually terrible. That's not.
No, yeah, we don't want to go back to 2019.
2019 it's a little better. It's a little better.
For a long
it's a little
time.
better.
A little better. A little better than it is now.
It's 20. You wake up tomorrow. It's 2019.
Yeah.
Do you warn the world?
I move. False. I move.
Best answer. Solid answer.
I move to Europe.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Guys, hello again and welcome to our second or fifth or whatever Cornerfest, the 2026 version, which this time, as intended, I meant to do this last time, is actually occurring over the gap of the year, which is, the corner, right? 2025.
Here's my immediate concern. And Jesse, tell me if you share this concern.
Sure.
The more time Alex has to plan something, the more confusing the episode ends up being rather than coherent.
I think what you're about to find out is, one, you're completely correct because the man already started with the end of the year is like a corner. So in his mind, years are like 90 degrees.
Yeah,
when you hit the end of a year,
there's only four, dude. Have you ever heard of the time cube?
Yeah.
And
We
yet
don't
somehow
leave the year. We sort of just shift the year really hard into like
it's hard left. And so much like this episode, hard left into some weird stuff on the internet.
That's
perfect. I must stress, no, you're correct. He's going to be like, time slice as we vertical leap through time into a portal of your imagination.
We're going to go everywhere. We're going to go everywhere today.
I picture Alex in his room, hunched over. He's like, this is fucking genius. And then you zoom out, and he's like in a haze.
I'm naked.
That's why his room is still so smoky.
I'm shirtless. It's not even smoky. It's like the beams of like Nyarlathotep are like coming into my eyes. Yeah.
And old God writings are notoriously concise and sensible and not at all insane. So
or maybe Aleister Crowley, who channeled an old God.
Or maybe I literally brought that up right now so that later I can come full circle and seem like a genius.
It's like 5D chess.
Right, which brings me to the topic of the episode today, and something which to me, I think might be one of the most important parts of life on this earth. And that's patreon.com/Chilluminati.
I knew you were going to do it, and I'm so proud of you. It was very good.
Yeah. This year, once Cornerfest is through, we're going to be hitting the Patreon even harder with cool stuff, starting with an episode quality recording of our live show from last month. And last year's live show will probably come out as an episode sometime pretty soon also. But also, you still get weekly minisodes, movie commentaries with our show Rotten Popcorn, even Let's Plays this time. We're going to be doing a better job of telling you about that stuff this time also when it happens and making sure that you know that signing up and supporting us is what's keeping us making cool stuff all through next year. And we've got some really good topics for next year already. We've already kind of planned out a couple months into next year what we're going to be doing. And it's all very cool and all very fresh and different stuff than what we did this year.
No repeat topics? That's a shame.
Yeah. No repeat topics, but like no repeat like aesthetics, right? Like it's a like this year was like this year was like a dark magic year. There was a
chunk of our show where we were like, we are in the muck
from
of magic.
March to now. We were in like a magic diversion. Yeah. It was like an unconscious working. But totally different stuff coming next year that is totally of a different flavor. So support us if you can, because this money doesn't just support us three palookas out here, but everybody else who works in the show, like Dean and Hilda and Mel too. And the more of our time that we can spend making the show, the best that it can be, the better. So that's patreon.com/ChilluminatiPod. Go sign up, even if you can't afford a financial contribution, because as long as you believe in nice, strong, potent culture, which constantly keeps you, as you guys said, peering around the edges of what is presented to you by the various institutions that control your lives, that's a win, baby. Anyway, the real thing I'd call the most important thing on this planet, well, besides context, which I really think is the most important thing, but really these two things kind of go hand in hand. Context and this thing go hand in hand. It's aesthetics. I mentioned it earlier. Aesthetics is the most important thing, which is a big, huge idea about the way things in the world are perceived and what kind of effect we can have on like experiences by like thinking about those experiences ahead of time or interacting with those experiences or whatever, right? You guys know what I mean about, you guys like know what aesthetics are, right? Like even, yeah. Even like art itself is just like one zone of aesthetics, right? So if you think, like if you really think about it, like aesthetics is one of the big main things, like how things are, how we make things be. That's pretty big.
Where's this going, bro?
Just think about it. Just follow me. Just follow me.
Wait, hang on. Well, Jesse, what are you going to say?
I just love, he's like, aesthetics, how we make things be.
Yeah.
That's the sentence I've ever heard you say.
Yeah.
How we make things be.
The reason that I say it goes hand in hand with context is that even though they're not like two sides of the same coin exactly, they both kind of amp each other up into an infinity spiral together that goes straight up your own mental ass in only the best ways. For example, the last sentence I said operates on several different levels, but I didn't just think about how it would sound to your ears as you heard me say an infinity spiral that goes straight up your own mental ass, but also how it would sound to your ears as you heard me say it, which hopefully is something like beautifully gross. Like hopefully you got like a beautifully gross feeling from it. But I also thought about it, what it would make you think about, like based on what I'm guessing about your collective cultural knowledge, which hopefully is enough to get you simultaneously to both good butt sex in your brain, but also like cool Doctor Strange. So hopefully all that happened in the last 10 seconds.
Is this like less comprehensible than usual?
No,
I figured if anything, you would understand, because this sounds like a Mathas riff.
Well,
we're talking about this is not even information
crazy.
Up your butt. Like
this is just like when you say butt, you think about a butt, you think about butt sex, you think about your.
Is that what you think about when you think about a butt?
When you think about butts, you think about a lot of functions.
That's the first place your brain goes.
Second.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Exactly.
Second. But like shit's in there too. Doctor Strange, mental ass.
Why is Doctor Strange in there?
Where is this going?
Trippy. Anyway, look, the only reason I bring this up, is that Cornerfest 26, just like any good Cornerfest, is filled with a giant and slowly growing amount of tantalizing mystery nuggets. There were 25 last year. Now there's 26. Think about it. Not for eating Chilluminati style, these nuggets. No, but for thinking about and mentally engaging with these things in a way that genuinely makes you excited and you want to get out there and uncover your own strange mysteries yourself maybe someday. But to do it right requires some aesthetic considerations. And because the Chilluminati,
I think that's what he was going to say. What is to see there
is a journey that I watched you go on, and I still don't know.
When you listen to this back, you'll
listen and you'll want to explore. You'll go explore, and then
on second or third listen, it'll sound great. But look, the Chilluminati have politely asked me to, as we go, talk about the aesthetics of the episode. I'm going to sort of like give the listeners
sex.
Yeah.
I tried.
It's already going over. So it's already going over really well. So I'm going to sort of like give the listeners a tutorial on how I write stuff like this as I write stuff like this. Does that make sense?
So it's like, this is going to be an episode / writer's workshop for new content creators.
It's like a behind the scenes of how this episode was written while also being the episode. Doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. Too late to turn back now. You're trapped with me. I am the audio version of one of those people who writes really good, long, informative, well-written Reddit posts about things you don't care about. We're live on the air. There are 26 mysteries in this year's corner between years. And today, in part A, we are going to hear the first 6 of them. Also, sometimes I lie for fun, but I'm never about the topic. And some of the stuff I say might be wrong by accident because I'm a comedian, not a journalist. And though I am trying my best, thirdly, please just consider this a generalized content warning, as some content in this episode may not be suitable for children or those with sensitive constitutions. For example, this first segment is called The Shit Bus.
Well, now it makes sense.
Yeah, you get it. Aesthetics, right?
I mean, I feel like a bus filled with shit is extremely child-oriented. I mean, do you remember being on the bus as a kid?
Well, maybe he doesn't mean poo-poo. Maybe he means like stuff.
No, I mean shit.
Never mind.
Now, all these stories are just the leftover threads, just like with every Cornerfest. All these stories are just the leftover threads of my episode research for the year, like things that, for whatever reason, while they are juicy nuggets, never get to the full episode status, either just because there's not that much to say or, there's various reasons why.
They're the delicious Thanksgiving leftovers of a Chilluminati year well spent.
Yeah, but I don't like holding on to ideas for very long either because I think they get stale I'm not excited about them anymore. So this is like me purging for next year's ideas, right?
Gotcha.
So here they all are for you now. And, since it's the first story out of the gate, it has to be something immediately engaging with
that should be
title.
A cigarette in your hand with the way you're acting and not weed.
I wish. It should be a cocaine cigarette.
Okay, so next thing we're going to do.
Well, I don't want to smoke for too long. All right, anyway, so...
What the fuck?
You get what I'm saying. Listen, first story at the gate. You want to start with the snappy title. This title is The Shit Bus. It sounds like it's going to be funny, but it also raises a lot of questions in your mind, which you now want to know the answer to.
Yeah, also, there's a lot of questions. Yeah. All right.
Yep. Also, it can't be too long. It has to be something kind of familiar. Lots of people will latch onto it right away. So instead of going immediately to the insane metaphysical places that you already think I'm going to go, or the trust me bro stuff that I'm definitely going to get into later, instead of doing that right out of the gate, we start small, we start simple and grounded by reminding the audience of what happened on Kinzie Street Bridge in Chicago on August 8th of 2004. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
You remember the Dave Matthews Band, poop incident?
Yes. So they dumped a bunch of poo in the river?
Yes. So just in case some listeners out there don't know what I'm talking about, here's a quote about it from Mathas to read from an article that's called That's Not Water, Buddy, an oral history of Poopgate.
People are either pro or anti Dave Matthews. Where are you boys and his music?
I don't care about him. He's like a tree to me. He's just there. He's not trying to hurt anyone. And I don't necessarily find myself super inspired by him, but I'm sure that the people who do are. It's like fish.
Oh, God, that explains why my dad grew up. I just listened to Dave Matthews and my dad was a fish head and all that other shit. So that makes sense why I like him.
Yes. Dave Matthews is fine. I like Dave Matthews. I don't listen to Dave Matthews anymore, but I'm not against it. And if it comes on, I'll listen to it. I will say
exactly
the reason I got into Dave Matthews was this girl, Erin, who was a senior when I was in 9th grade and we were in plays together. And after plays, we would all go out, but she would take me in her car to McDonald's. We'd all go to the McDonald's together and eat French fries and chat like Chatty Cathy's. But she'd always play Dave Matthews. And in my mind, I was like, she loves me. This senior girl is super into me. 9th grade Jesse Cox. Yeah.
That's what she's doing. She'll tell you via his music.
Yeah. So this article's called That's Not Water, Buddy, an oral history of Poopgate. It's written by Sarah Steamer, which would be funnier. It marked the 20th anniversary last year of the incident for Chicago Magazine. And here's Mathas.
It was just a lovely summer day on August 8th, 2004, when Chicago's Little Lady took off on the 1 p.m. Chicago Architecture Foundation tour. At the same time, a tour bus for the Dave Matthews Band in town playing a 2-night show at Alpine Valley Music Theater in East Troy, Wisconsin, was making its way through the loop. While traveling over the Kinzie Street Bridge, the bus driver made the highly unusual and illegal choice to dump the coach's septic tank through the bridge's street grates and into the river. Just then, naturally, the tour boat was passing underneath. As Chicagoans know, when it rains, it pours. Some 800 pounds worth of human waste over 2/3 of the 120 passengers on the boat's deck.
Infamously, the captain of this boat actually made the joke earlier in the tour that if you look up with your mouth open under a bridge, you may get a real taste of Chicago. Little did they know how true that was.
That's an unfortunate day to be on that boat.
I've only ever watched bus videos and RV videos and camper videos on the internet. There is some dude in Florida who posts him trying to sell people RVs online. And honest to God, it's very entertaining. But when I look at those, there's a whole process where you have to get out. You have to unhook things. were they driving by, or did they literally stop on the bridge and start dumping poo?
It was in motion. I'll explain it to you better when we get to that point.
Okay, yeah.
It's one of those proper buses. This is like basically an airplane on wheels. You'll see what I mean in a minute.
Are you telling me there's buses driving around and the guy's like flipping a lever, and as they're driving down the road, just poo's coming out the bottom?
Hell yes. That's not what you're supposed to. That's not what you're supposed to do, and it's very illegal to do so, but you can. And you know, like I said, now the audience is hooked. There's a bunch of shit in the picture. We got Dave Matthews Band. We're ready to laugh. So I'll wait until this point to mention that the boat's called Chicago's Little Lady. You might have picked it up from the quote. And now, just to drive the moment home for people listening, here's Jesse with another quote about it from a man who was on that boat that day, who was a writer for the Chicago Tribune at the time, Brett McNeil, whose girlfriend was in town from Boston that day and whom he took on that tour because the weather was just perfect.
As we approached, the bus was moving from northeast to southwest across the bridge, and as it hit the bridge, it opened the toilets, which then began cascading down. So it's like the bus was towing a rooster tail of toilet waste. We basically hit it like the Maid of the Mist. Having lived in Buffalo, I know exactly what that is, and that is that. I don't like that.
It's nasty.
It was a waterfall of toilet water that we passed under. Not all parts of the boat were hit, but certainly not all parts of the boat were hit equally. Some people in the back of the boat had a much better view of the bus. I was confused about what it was. I thought it was either street sweeper or one of those trucks that you'll see with the big water tanks, and they use them to water the flower beds and flowers along Michigan Avenue. That was my initial thought.
Yeah. And about 2/3 of the people on the boat were soaked with brown yellow shit water. And Delicious. It was just as gross as you think it was. It got in people's eyes. It got in people's mouth. There was a pregnant violinist on board who was just barfing and crying, and just everything was just going to shit. People were screaming. The bar on board just like opened and started handing out drinks, whatever people wanted. It was so nasty that people literally were like, I have to go to the hospital right now to make sure that I am not gonna die.
Oh, you know that scene the scene in Goonies where
no, I've never seen Goonies.
Chunk explains about the time to the Fratellis, where he explains about the time where he threw up in a movie theater, then everyone else started throwing up.
Yeah,
that's what would have happened if I would have immediately puked.
People just started throwing up. People driving while the bus was dumping were getting like a little bit splashed, and it was like also making them barf. One lady had her head out the window and was like driving a car and like got splashed, and like barfed into her own hair. It was just crazy.
Oh God, that would have been me. I would have been the same way. Like the minute that shit hit me, I would have been vomiting, projectile vomit.
I wouldn't judge you for that. And also, obviously,
thank you.
Everyone on the tour,
that.
Yeah, everyone on the. You know what? Hell yeah, dude. Everyone on the tour got their tickets refunded. Even while still on the boat, Brett McNeil, that reporter, heard people talking about a tour bus up there that did it. Maybe to the point that by the time word got to the mayor, the thing had gone so viral that he was like on the news vowing to catch whoever did this, stuff like that. And that's when someone from the boat finally got interviewed by the police and gave them a literal license plate number, which supposedly led them to Dave Matthews Band, specifically for a tour bus belonging to one of their drivers, Jerry Fitzpatrick. But this is where it gets slightly odd, because Jerry denied everything, claiming he was still parked in front of the Peninsula Hotel where the band was staying that previous night in downtown Chicago with the rest of the buses, and even submitted his bus's septic tank to an inspection because, as the police found, it was still almost completely full. So, which would be a hard thing to just do. But by now,
plus it was a really rough night of dinner the night before.
There was 800 pounds of shit.
Oh my God. Okay, never mind. That's so much more than I thought would be in a tour bus's septic tank.
95
like a comically large amount of crap.
800 pounds of shit. So by now, Dave Matthews Band is already part of the story in the news. It's making national news. People are talking about barfing on the boat on Good Morning America. The police tracked the bus like London Big Brother style, from like camera to camera, using footage from the surveillance cams of businesses on the street to connect it with a different one of the Dave Matthews drivers, a guy called Stephen Wall of Texas, who was the driver for the violinist from Dave Matthews Band, Boyd Tinsley. You know who that is?
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, that's a second random violinist in this story. So there was a violinist's shit cascading down onto a violinist, maybe. And who also, after seeing the footage himself, the driver, pled guilty to flipping the auto-release tank dump button as the bus went over the grate. He got fired. He got put on 18 months probation. He got given 150 hours of community service, and he paid a $10,000 fine. It's pretty crazy. Also, Dave Matthews Band promised to always keep a log of septic tank dumps from now on so that they could always track when their tanks were dumping.
Wait, rewind really quick. So they said we were still at the hotel. The septic tank was filled.
On the guy's bus, on the guy's bus from the on the guy's bus with the license plate, there was shit. But this guy's bus was seen on camera, theoretically. Boyd Tinsley's bus.
So the license plate, they just got a different license plate?
I have no idea even how to explain that.
Let alone the violinist has his own bus?
There's 5 buses that take Dave Matthews around.
The band is huge. The band is huge. There's so many people in the band. So I'm saying, I imagine the buses were probably like one after another, and then one dumped. They looked up, they saw a different, the one that was like behind it or whatever.
This is the type of hotel that like everyone around comes to stay at who's like rich because it's a nice hotel, and there are often buses there. So it's kind of like how it works, right? So Dave Matthews Band promises to keep the log of shit. But that's just the tip of the iceberg, since they also paid themselves over $300,000 just towards protecting the local environment, improving the Chicago River and parks as part of their like settlement that they did, because they're the ones in the end who are responsible, along with a bunch of insurance and compensation and personal injury suits from the tour company, people on the boat. And as Jesse will now read for us in another quote from Brett McNeil, it sparked a larger discussion about the Chicago River as well.
The reason that guy would have done this is to avoid the dumping fees that he would have had to pay for black water in Chicago. To me, the bigger story, the subtext was always, if this guy's doing it and he's an out-of-town hack, who else is doing it? Efforts to clean up the river are obviously being subverted by these fly dumpers, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
Great term.
So now you kind of know the OG story in a little bit more depth than most people do. And it resurfaces all over the internet every couple of years, and they even put up an unofficial plaque on the bridge commemorating the incident in 2023 or something like that. And now I would say that the audience has probably had enough context for the first turn of Cornerfest 26, in which I reach a point in reading this article where I saw something which tickled my own fancy and which I decided required further research. Where, first of all, I saw that when they first accused Stephen Wall, he denied doing it. And the band backed him and even offered DNA samples, like so that they could match it to their shit if they needed to, with the bridge shit. Before that was all shut down by the photo evidence, which they got from the nearby East Bank Club, which apparently shows the bus doing exactly what was claimed. But which is kind of weird already, because why would the band ever offer something that extreme as a shit test if they weren't absolutely sure that they were going to pass the shit test, right? That's A. But then here's yet another quote for Jesse to read from that same reporter who was there that day and who's now inextricably tied to this story forever, Mr. Brett McNeil.
I sat for a documentary. There's an element of high bullshit to this story. The tail end of the story, this sort of, well, will we never know what happened? We know what happened. The bus driver pled and he got a misdemeanor deal out of it. The individual says, basically, I was railroaded. I didn't do it. Perhaps one of the band members, the violin player in the jam band he did it. Honestly, I feel like the way you describe this is the dude said to them, guys, it's not me. I promise you it's not me. And so they all backed him out of like, we ride together, we die together kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, none of it makes sense.
Right. And so at this point, I'm thinking to myself, like, damn, what if the Dave Matthews Band shit bridge incident was a cover-up? Like, what if that's possible? Like, it's a real question I just posed to the universe. I got to searching, and I got a hit somewhere else on Instagram. Of course, I'm thinking, oh yeah, here we go. Mic drop moment where I get to like open everybody's third eye about this. Were they framed? By who? Well, according to this post by user Real Matt Bunting, the answer is not even vague, because another huge band was also in town that same night that Dave Matthews Band was, and also had a tour bus in town. And that band was none other than Linkin Park.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. He says that Dave Matthews Band was staying in Chicago because they were in between shows of a 2-night engagement on August 7th and August 8th of 2004, which they were playing with Guster and Gem at the Alpine Valley Music Theater in East Troy, Wisconsin. Such a time capsule.
Yeah.
Such a time capsule. But that is 100 miles away from their hotel. That's how remote that place is and how nice this hotel is, just to give you an idea. So they literally went, played that show one night, came back to Chicago, and then the next day, this morning, when they were headed back to the venue, theoretically, that's when the shit occurred, right? So this is all true and confirmable thanks to concertarchives.org, which rules in terms of like dates, set lists, stuff like that. You can check it out in the description. And Real Matt Bunting on Instagram explains that this is actually kind of strange, since we know that a bus traveling from the Peninsula Hotel in Chicago, where Dave Matthews Band was staying, that's going to the Alpine Valley Music Theater in Wisconsin, would not be crossing west. I'm sorry. It would be crossing west over the river. And the picture that we have from the police unmistakably shows that the bus going over the bridge was going east. And here is a Google Maps link of that trip, if you guys want to look at it, to kind of like see what I'm talking about here. You can kind of trace the line, right?
Yeah.
Like it starts at the hotel and then it goes, and it definitely goes west over the river past the East Bank Club to the, off to Wisconsin, right?
Yeah.
So that's just a real thing.
That's the trip.
So anyway, now's as good as time as any to show you the actual photo, which again was taken from cameras at the East Bank Club, which is like a fitness type of club, not like a dance club. It's like a gym. And it looks like this. Here's the photo of the bus, right? So this is the highest quality photo of this bus that we've seen.
So white bottom, black top.
Colorful on the bottom. Yeah. Like some kind of bright color. And then, like a black top. That's all you can really make out from the photo. But because of the orientation of the photo, you can see which direction the bus is going over the bridge. And then here is a link to Google Maps where you can see how close the East Bay Club is to the bridge. You can just look at it and just tell people kind of what you're seeing here. Like if you're looking at this like you're looking at this street view that I'm at, right?
Yeah,
you're
we're on
looking
street
at
view.
this kind of narrow, tall building right in front of you with the traffic light, right?
So this actually gives you a lot of if you look at the street view, and where I assume we're pointing at is if you are looking at the water, there is a very small black gate.
Yeah, that blue awning is where we're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, the blue that blue awning behind the black gate, that black gate's where the camera is taking the photo through.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's not very far. It's not that far, but it's like pretty far to get a good look at the bus. Let's put it that way. So that's that. And then that's one strange thing already. But then also this Instagram video that I watched plays a clip of this podcast called the Throwback Podcast, which is like a music and culture podcast, which is in turn playing a clip from the excellent YouTube channel Documentary Forever, which I did not know about before I found this, in which, like I said, a random Dave Matthews fan in a parking lot says that her friend worked for Dave Matthews at the time. This is a concert in Chicago. She said her friend worked for Dave Matthews at the time, and that Linkin Park, or that someone from their entourage, were the real culprits. Okay. So that's another point for it being Linkin Park. But it's just a random person. It's just a random person in a parking lot tailgating a Dave Matthews show. But then Real Matt Bunting looks it up. And yeah, sure enough, Linkin Park did have a show that night, which was down at the Tweeter Center, which is like only 30 miles out of Chicago. And since we know Dave Matthews was willing to drive 90 miles each way to stay in Chicago between shows, it's easy to imagine that Linkin Park would do it for a ride that's 60 miles round trip. And if they were near downtown that night, just like Dave Matthews Band made the same similar trip, it's easy to imagine that Linkin Park did cross the Kinsey Bridge on the way to their next tour date, which was at the Post-Gazette Pavilion in Pennsylvania. And it would certainly make sense that if they were headed to Pennsylvania from Chicago, that they would be going east across the river that day, right? But then again, this is just the word of some weird lady in a parking lot who swore that she knew somebody on Trust Me Bro status. And that actually, looking back, she also said that Linkin Park in the clip was Dave Matthews Band's opener that night, which they were not. So that's like, she's already messing up the story, but she did hear it with Linkin Park, which is a bummer because it kind of, to me, discredited the idea of it being Linkin Park. So now, in order to create some drama in the story, even though I've already written this entire script and I know where it goes, I'll make it feel like for a while, I was at a loss and that we might never discover a decent lead in this case. And that maybe the official story was the only story. But actually, it turned out someone else kind of filled in the blanks for me perfectly because that excellent YouTube channel I was talking about, Documentary Forever, I kept watching the video beyond that little clip that was in that other podcast. And it's fucking really just a good ass channel that is like operating on a different level of filmmaking than most documentary channels. But then suddenly they've got Stephen Wall, the driver of the bus, a clip of him on a radio show on the phone with a bunch of DJ, like, you know, Zoo Crew type DJs in the morning in 2014 on the 10th anniversary of the dumping. They have a clip of it. And suddenly the whole thing's blown right open again because even though it's quick and the radio show he's on, which is called Free Beer and Hot Wings on Razor 94.7 in Michigan, by the way.
Razor 94.7.
They're giving him a hard time. They're giving him a hard time on the show.
WRZR.
Yeah, they're talking mad shit on him because he's like saying he didn't do it. And they're like, okay, dude, yeah, you did it though. Which is like, it's pretty brutal how they're talking to him. But he also says that the band paid his fine of $10,000 when he took the blame. And also that there was one other black bus parked with all the Dave Matthews buses at the hotel that day, but that he does not remember who it was, but he knows that it was there. Curiouser and curiouser. Now, usually before the end of a story where I reveal whether or not everything's real or worth thinking about, I'd like there to be a point in the story where the audience is fully ready to believe in the alternate version that I'm presenting them. Before the moment, like the detective moment where you have to say it, what actually happened, and then it's real life.
I'd love you to believe this, please.
I wish, like, look, usually the detective comes and he tells you how it's done, or the magician reveals the secret, and it's very like underwhelming and banal. So hopefully this is that point in the story for you today. So now I'll also bring up that somehow a year ago, Documentary Forever also got Stephen Wall on the phone themselves in 2024, and they actually let him talk instead of being brutal to him. So they start talking about the incident, and immediately he mentions he's innocent, and here's Mathas as Stephen Wall.
Well, you know, people that know me, you know, they know the truth. So we only had a 30-gallon tank. Well, if you do the math, there's no way it could be 100 pounds. And the other thing is, I'm the only bus driver that was using Tide detergent instead of formaldehyde products. I've always used Tide detergent in my tank, and when you dump it, it suds up really big. And when they said there was no formaldehyde in it, he said, I knew it wasn't you. So, you know, and here's what I told the detective. The dumbest guy out there would not have done that on purpose at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. 1 o'clock in the morning? Fuck yeah. You know, I'm sure there's guys still doing it at 1 o'clock in the morning because it's the perfect location. You're driving, you dump, you know, I didn't even know there was water under there. I've been over that bridge 25 times in my career, never even noticed there was water.
Yeah. So not an impossible story to poke holes in, but then the dude asks like the one question, which I think anybody should ask him, which was like, well, if you're not guilty, then why did you like go down for this? And here's what he said.
The band came to me on September. Over a month later, we were in San Antonio, whatever date that was in San Antonio that year. It was only 10 days after, on August 18th. We were at the amphitheater out of Selma, Texas by San Antonio. They called me into the little office there, and I can't tell you exactly what they said because it would maybe set off a firestorm. But basically, I was a clean cut guy. If you catch my drift, out of 15 buses, so they wanted it to go away because of Dave being the green guy. So me and my wife had to think about it, and I came back for months saying no. And then the detective that called me, I was the only bus driver that would talk to the detective because, you know, I figured why not? I got nothing to hide, you know. I told him exactly what I did and when I cued it.
And basically, you know, you saw the picture. The description called for a black bus with red writing on it, just like the one in the picture. And that was most likely just Stephen caught red-handed on video, except thanks to that weird lady in the parking lot of the Dave Matthews Band show, he also, the guy interviewing him, also decides to ask Stephen about Linkin Park because that's kind of like a popular theory at this point. And even though he says he didn't hear anything about no Linkin Park, nothing at all, he did, however, hear about something else, which Mathas will read for you now.
The only other bus that I was told that could have been identified as one of the buses that the people said it was, somebody said it was a black bus with red writing on it, and the only other bus in town that year at the same time as us was Snoop Dogg's bus.
Yep. So the doc then takes that fact, that like little bit of info one step further, confirms that Snoop Dogg's 2004 tour bus really was black with red writing on it and did kind of look a lot like that bus in the picture. But then he just sort of leaves it there with like a nice little acoustic cover of Gin and Juice playing and some like Chicago B-roll footage, which is like really nice. Like for a movie, it was great. It's like a nice 20-minute doc. You should go watch it. Links in the description. But before we go, here's just a few more little things that I noticed that maybe take this one step further for me personally. Okay. This is just stuff that when I had all the facts in front of me, this extra stuff felt extra significant. When you look up, first of all, when you look up Linkin Park on October 7th, 2004, it does indeed show that they played the Tweeter Center that night. But for some reason, it isn't until you look up Snoop Dogg on October 7th, 2004, that you realize that Snoop Dogg played the exact same show as Linkin Park, and that Linkin Park and Snoop Dogg had been on a months-long tour together at this point. So he was in Chicago, and he was linked to Linkin Park. Secondly, I'm not sure exactly how the shit-dunking bus was ever identified as belonging to Boyd Tinsley, the violinist from Dave Matthews Band, right?
Yep.
Or who it was who first added that detail to the story. I have no idea. Couldn't really find out. But I will say that the Tweeter Center, which is the venue where Linkin Park and Snoop Dogg did their show, is located in Tinley Park, which is pretty close to Tinsley. And if that's where they were going, maybe it was written on the bus. I don't know. It's just really similar. And finally, going back to that weird lady at Dave Matthews tailgate and what she said exactly. She said it was the bus of someone in Linkin Park's entourage. She may have been wrong about Linkin Park opening for Dave Matthews Band, but Snoop Dogg's crew technically does sort of fall into the category of Linkin Park's entourage because he was on a tour that summer, not just with Linkin Park, but get ready for another time capsule. Korn, The Used, Less Than Jake, all also on the tour. So there was like an entourage vibe, and it would have felt very entourage-y, probably traveling with that group. So yeah, those are just some little extra things that I noticed. Now that the curtain has been pulled back and the naked mystery is revealed, through cold hard facts, hopefully for the average audience member, this was a pretty satisfying story to kick off Cornerfest 26. And even though I maybe don't give the listeners a complete answer by the end, hopefully at least some wheels are now turning in everybody's heads, and that everybody's primed for a fresh new story with a completely different vibe, and possibly one that's legitimately pretty freaky now that we're nice and comfortable and ready to hear some stuff.
Now we're in the warm poo water.
Yep. This one is called
Ghost House. I just really quickly, that guy 100% did it. I don't buy any of that shit. That guy definitely dumped that poo.
I don't know.
That doesn't check. It's the stories keep changing everything. Ah, dude, that guy dumped that poo.
There's a lot of coincidences.
That guy dumped that poo.
I wish somebody would dead ass ask Snoop about it. I wish, because I feel like he's at this point now where he might just say it, but also he's been in some hot water lately about his light year comments.
I don't know. I feel like that guy dumped that poo.
Interesting tidbit to a story that I already knew a lot about. I thought that was interesting. This one is called Ghost House. So, as you may have noticed this past year, just as I said I was going to last Cornerfest, this year's Alex episodes were all about, our number of the year, numerology, 3. We were all about experimenting with the format and being creative and interesting. And we tried lots of new things. Legitimately, we played around with a lot of different things format wise and just how we conceive of the show and stuff like that. But one thing I still haven't really gotten to do is one thing that I really wanted to try, which was inserting myself directly into a story and investigating it like boots on the ground style so I could narrate it like a detective, right? I thought that it would be possible to do something local in that style for LA month in my hometown of San Pedro, which is home of the LA Harbor, and one of the oldest parts of the
home
city.
Of the Chowder Barge.
Yes. No, well, yeah, sort of, yeah. Just because I know it very well, I thought it would be good to like walk around and explore in. And I already know a lot of its history, and I speak the same sort of unfriendliness the town is known for. I get it. I know what the vibe is, et cetera, et cetera. So for whatever reason, that did not happen. The story was not working. But the story itself is so crazy anyway, and so unexpectedly interesting that I wanted to do it regardless. And yes, I realized that by mentioning an investigative detective episode that for some of you, I've now created a cool thing that you could have had that I took from you, like David Zaslav. But I'll simply remind you that when writing a script ahead of time, there needs to be lots of little breadcrumbs for everybody to nibble on, so that by the end, when it all pays off, literally all of it, people can go back and go, whoa, he like planned this. So that's what I'm doing right now. So hopefully just pay attention to that. Anyway, do with that information what you will. This story is not the longest, most winding story ever, but there's a great documentary about it on Tubi that was co-written and possibly slightly directed by famed child and later scary adult actor Jackie Earle Haley, who bizarrely has my same exact birthday. Maybe everybody who writes about San Pedro has to be really similar in strange ways for cosmic reasons. Who knows? This thing. But also, it's free. So if you do have a chance to go watch that, the link is in the description. It's called An Unknown Encounter, the true account of the San Pedro haunting. And whether or not you believe in this type of shit, it just goes to show, like, when you call the experts, how good it can be sometimes, because this thing is like all real footage. It is like, there's like no reenactments. There's so much ghost evidence in that fucking movie. Like, go look at it. It's crazy. It's a real good one.
Can you just repeat the streaming service that's on again?
Tubi.
Whatever that is. Yeah.
No, Tubi.
Yeah, exactly. Tubi, Jesse. Sorry.
Tubi. Yeah, no, I'm aware.
You don't even need to have a login for Tubi. That's how good Tubi is. You can just
how do they make money?
I don't know. I really don't know. I think it shows commercials, but like,
okay.
Yeah. Anyway, Jackie Hernandez was a single mother in 1988. Year of my birth, by the way. And she was basically the exact template for those theories about like certain types of people being more susceptible to poltergeist activity. She had just had a kid. She had just like sort of, I think she was still married, but she had left her husband because it was rocky and not good. And she had another baby on the way. So she was like mid-pregnancy. And though she was looking for a fresh start, she's working multiple jobs. She's parenting and she's going to school. So, you know, that was some hard shit. That's
a concoction for a stressful place to be living, which is what poltergeists love.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. So luckily, if you're from San Pedro, you'll know that in addition to the more normal homes you'll see in lots of other LA neighborhoods, many of the old, like weird, tiny cowboy time houses that were there in the olden days still are like around because Pedro doesn't like really advance that much. And that's exactly how Jackie ended up in a weird, cute little bungalow off the street behind another house near 11th and Grand Street with a nickel and a wish in her pocket. And also, I'm going to just really quickly acknowledge something which I'm probably going to catch some undue flack for, which is that, yes, I realize that San Pedro is the name of this place, San Pedro, right? That's the Spanish pronunciation of these words. But if you are from this town, I promise you, even though it sounds unbelievable, that actually the way to pronounce the name of this place is San Pedro. If
that's half the places in LA that it's like, that's not really what it would sound like, but it's LA.
It's like, if you ask people about it, there's definitely like grounds for like, maybe you just pronounce it the Spanish way, right? But I think what's more interesting to me as a sort of account of it is like, if you imagine like somebody from another country coming and reading the word San Pedro and seeing it and how they all pronounce it together, and all the words like La Cienega and Sepulveda and all those Cahuenga, all those weird things that we say, rodeo, whatever, all that shit. It's like kind of like part of the character of our place. And by the way, if fucking New England can do it with like every single fucking place, we can do it with a few things.
Texas fucking does it. There's a city in Texas called Humble. And if you call it Humble, they're like, what are you talking about? Because it's Humble. It's spelled with an H.
Like a UK.
But you say humble. You say.
By the way,
humble.
just for the record, my favorite thing ever is if you put in, you're gonna go down Sepulveda and you put in anything into like a assisting driving thing, it'll go now approaching Sepulveda, and it's amazing every time.
I want a Sepulveda in my office,
dude. Sepulveda.
I am your squirter. All right. So yeah, no, this is not Pedro Erasure. The place is called San Pedro, and I'm sorry. It is. Nevertheless, something was wrong. And pretty soon she started hearing and seeing things. First small things, enough to just like convince herself it wasn't happening at first, or her cat was just getting overexcited for no reason, or whatever. The sounds were maybe just her cat. But then once an entire pencil case just dead ass levitated across the room in broad daylight, she suddenly realized she was deep into some kind of spooky situation she didn't fully understand, and it scared the fucking shit out of her. Also, the timeline here is a little wonky because I don't know what liberties they took in the documentary, and like every single version of the story has things happening in a different order, but they're all the same things. So I just tried to make the most sense of it that I could. Eventually, she saw a full body apparition of an old man's corpse that was sitting with crossed legs on her son's bottom bunk bed, and he was wearing a red flannel shirt tucked into the kind of pants that like pump attendants wear at a gas station, before staring right at her and vanishing before her eyes. And it was so fucked up and real seeming that she reached out to the people around her for help, starting with Susan Castaneda, her neighbor, who not only came around and often served as a witness or a babysitter or moral support, but was also instrumental in founding the classic Mexican restaurant La Chispa that used to be on Western and Westmont by the warehouse. And it totally kicked ass. If you know, you know. I wish I could have those chips and cheese again. That would be tight. But alas, time. Sorry. Anyway, this dude was not making her feel good. Almost like he wasn't happy that Jackie and her son were in the house, this old dead flannel man. And one day, while Susan was over, they heard a crazy sound in the other room. And when they went to investigate, they saw that a painting had been ripped off the wall with all the nails that were used to hang it up, pulled out of the wood and placed on the floor in a way where it seemed like they were trying to get them to step on it. And this really drove that unwelcoming message home. But Jackie and Susan just dealt with it and let it roll off their backs as best they could. And Jackie even like started tracking activity as it happened, trying to be proactive about it. But then in April of 1989, her new baby Samantha was born. Their babysitter, Christina Zivkovich, started experiencing all kinds of nonsense too at the house. And it kind of took over everybody's life. And Christina said it was literally all they talked about because it was so impossible to ignore because it was constantly happening and everybody thought they were crazy. A dark smelling putrid ooze began pouring down the wall one day when they were washing dishes, and that became a regular thing eventually. Later, Jackie was like, what the fuck is that? And she like went up to the attic to see what the fuck it was, because it seemed to be coming from above the house, and the house was old and had an attic. And when she climbed up the hatch, first thing, she was immediately greeted by a vision of the old man's head floating in space, and it scared the shit out of her.
Just like a head, like in the Haunted Mansion?
Yes, exactly.
The vision as in like it was in her mind, or like she opened it and as she popped her head into the attic, there was the head just floating around.
There was the head. Yes, exactly. She literally saw it.
Throw a punch, dude.
Yeah. And even later when it was happening so much, they decided they'd better get it tested, this ooze, to see what it was. It came back as having a similar makeup to certain household chemicals combined with the blood of a human male. Unidentifiable human male, but it had the same makeup. Balls of light were regularly seen drifting and darting around inside, and furniture around the house would often just randomly collapse like somebody was putting too much weight on it. And for a while, Jackie kept having a recurring nightmare being clubbed over her head down on the docks in what looked to her like 1930 San Pedro, and then held under the water until she drowned. And she hated it because she actually felt herself die before she'd wake up. And this happened a lot of times. And after a while, Susan saw this guy, Dr. Barry Taff, on TV, and he was like the associate director of the parapsychology lab at UCLA. So that's pretty cool. He was also the investigator who documented the like sexually violent, like ghost rape haunting of Doris Bither, which is another super crazy ghost story.
Yeah, that's some crazy.
It is like I could take a Waymo there right now. It's so close to my house. It was turned into the Barbara Hershey movie, The Entity, in 1983. It's a pretty crazy ghost story, and he was the investigator on it. He's like a legit version of like the Warrens, kind of, or at least more legit version of the Warrens, because he was an academic for real. Susan Castaneda put Jackie in touch with Barry right away, and when he saw how similar Jackie's situation was to Doris's, who was also an abused single mother under severe mental stress, and she tries to make it on her own against like domestic violence, depression, and shit like that. Similar things. He also believed that the spirits fed on this. So he decided that on August 8th, 1989, he was going to pay Jackie and her house a visit, along with another Barry, the cameraman Barry Conrad, and another investigator called Jeff Wheatcraft. And he also brought like hella ghost hunting gear, infrared cameras and microphones and all this stuff. And almost immediately, phenomena just fucking started occurring. They began an interview, and you can look at this. You can literally go see this. It's crazy. They began an interview despite a mounting feeling of overwhelming pressure in the room, which was constantly interrupted by what Dr. Taft described as, quote, what sounded like a 200-pound rat running around in the attic. And when Wheatcraft climbed up there with the cameraman to see if he'd catch any of the activity that was causing the sounds on film, his camera was like ripped out of his hands, and he like left because he was so scared of like how much it felt like somebody took his camera out of his hands. And when he finally got up the strength to go back up there and look for his camera, he found the lens completely unscrewed from the body and tossed into the complete opposite corner of the room. Pretty crazy. So that was the first time they were there. They came back again on September 4th, and Wheatcraft went back up into the attic a second time with a third guy that they brought, Gary Boehm. And like within seconds, Gary had to rush over and free Jeff from a thick, like plastic covered cord that had been wound around his neck and looped around a nail sticking out of the wood beams in the ceiling. All of this stuff is on camera in the Tubi documentary, by the way.
What do you mean?
Yeah, hang on.
If you want to see a picture of it.
Are you telling me that they captured it wrapping around his neck or captured them getting it off?
They captured him having it on him suddenly.
What?
Yeah, what?
It's like in the dark in an attic that he went up in. And so like he was like, help, oh shit. And they like went up there and immediately took a picture of him. Right?
Okay, so no one saw him actually get wrapped up. They saw him wrapped up.
Right. And when they investigated the rope, they saw that it was tied in a classic fisherman's bowline knot. And Jeff decided he wasn't going to come back to the house anymore. He didn't feel safe or welcome in the house because this ghost, in his mind, had tried to destroy his camera and kill him. And while Dr. Taft, which doesn't happen that much with ghosts, and while Dr. Taft did not find the truth of what was really happening beyond a reasonable doubt, he did ultimately believe that they did capture evidence of whatever it is that ghosts are. And that most likely, as Jesse will explain for us now, he thought that Jackie Hernandez was like the catalyst. So here we go.
One of the theories is that the environment can somehow store information. And under the proper circumstances, the information is reconstructed so that you can feel it, see it, or hear it. So Jackie Hernandez may have been pushing the button on the VCR.
And if you are not a millennial, if you're younger than that, a VCR
pushing the button on
had.
the Blu-ray player.
Yeah, same thing.
Okay. And, you know, even if you're doing well financially, right? Raising a toddler and an infant at the same time in a tiny 2 or 3 room bungalow is crazy style town, no matter what. And there may have been something to that, because as Jackie's personal life got easier, so too did the hauntings. And by the end of the fall of that same year, her and her husband were like trying to get back together. And eventually they decided to move out to Weldon. Do you know where that is? Weldon is in Kern County. It's like not that far from LA, but it's pretty far from LA. And after the first couple of weeks passed with no problems, she thought she was in the clear in this new sort of trailer where she was at in Weldon. And but then, just like last time, there was trouble at home, and her husband left her alone again, this time in a remote trailer in the middle of nowhere. And again, it's like 1989. So calling people on the phone long distance in LA or whatever was like pretty expensive to talk for hours just to have somebody with you. So this time she didn't even have friends to back her up really. And all of a sudden, guess what? The activity starts up again. Her and her neighbors are carrying a big old CRT TV into a shed to be stored, totally off, totally unpowered, totally unplugged. And they almost dropped it because there in the reflection of the screen was the dead old man's face again. And she couldn't handle it. And later that night, she couldn't fall asleep because even though she wasn't 100% sure, she knew what it was. It definitely sounded to her like somebody was locked in that same shed all night, pounding as hard as they could, trying to get out. So she picked up the phone, spends a little bit more money, calls Dr. Taft again. And here he comes all the way out to Weldon this time, all the way out to Kern County. And they're ready to do it all over again. But somehow, for some reason, absolutely none of their equipment would stay on and powered. Like somebody kept switching it off to the point that they gave up on electronics altogether. After a while, switched over to literally a Ouija board, which, by the way, there's got to be a Ouija board episode. That's like,
yeah, I was thinking there's a bunch of things I feel like we just didn't cover in however many episodes of this damn show we've done.
Well,
and I'm like, we
Ouija's
gotta go back. Like Ouija,
Ouija's
Loch
like kind of
Ness,
a-
all the
yeah,
things.
There's a lot of things. It's kind of a crock, but it's kind of real. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
If
Doesn't matter. At this point,
you're a chaos magician, Ouija
at
is
this point,
real
I'm
as
convinced
anything.
90% of what we're talking about is not real. And that's fine because it's fun to talk about.
Did you know that Hine, what's his name? Phil Hine? Mathis, is that a guy?
Phil Hine? Yeah, for what?
He's like
That's
a chaos guy.
Oh, yeah. You're talking about chaos magic. Yeah.
I think his name is Phil Hine. He has a working path that's like Cthulhu. Like anything can be chaos magic. So if it's real,
I mean,
it's
that's
real, right?
Chaos Condensed is Phil Hine, if that's who you're talking about.
Yeah,
The
he has
author of Chaos Condensed.
something called the Neonomicon, which is literally a working path about chaos magic that is Cthulhu themed.
That's the point. Chaos
Yeah.
magic could be whatever you want.
It's wild stuff.
Chaos magic.
Anyway,
Yeah, and that's why it's nonsense. Whatever.
immediately once
that's
once
over,
everyone-
Jesse. That year of magic is done.
we're
We can
past
move
that.
on.
Thank
Now we're in
God.
corner. Yeah, we're turning the corner. Get it? And immediately, once everybody was sat down and ready, the table shook, and they talked directly with the entity, who told them that he absolutely hated Jeff Wheatcraft because he was the one that reminded him of his murderer the most. And then he threw Jeff against the wall of the house. So Jackie did keep actually a small transcript of some of these Ouija sessions for a few years, because in 1993, Gary Abrams of the LA Times saw them, and he went to interview her again a few years later, after all that happened in March of 93. And I'm not sure if this is all she had, but it's so compelling that I'm going to have Jesse and Mathis read it for us now, where Jesse's going to play Dr. Taff again, and Mathis is Mr. Old Dead Man Ghost Entity Person.
How long have you been trapped here in this spirit world?
60 years.
Did you die in the San Pedro house?
No.
Where did you die?
San Pedro Bay.
Did you drown?
No. I was held underwater.
Did you live in the San Pedro house?
My murderer lived there.
So he really lays some shit out.
Wait a minute, but
That's
did
like
you
such
drown?
a funny ass, like it's such a very, every conversation you've ever had with ghosts.
You have to remember, this is how they're doing it with the planchette, right?
Oh, no, completely understand. But it's funny because every conversation that we talk about with ghosts is like cryptic and weird. This guy's like, no, dude, that guy drowned me, bro. Drown me and then
No, exactly. And it syncs up with her dream that she was having, right? So apparently they also got the dates 1912 and 1930 as being of some importance from this entity. And using that information, eventually they were able to find this newspaper article from the March 26th, 1930 edition of the San Pedro Pilot, which Mathis will read a bit from now.
The dead body of a man found floating early yesterday morning under the municipal fish wharf in San Pedro was identified last night as that of Herman Hendrickson, 38, a seaman formerly employed on the lumber steamer Astoria. For several hours yesterday, police investigators were in a quandary as to who the dead man was. In his clothing were found seaman's papers giving the name of Orrin B. Ballard, marine engineer of San Francisco. A long-distance call to the Bay City revealed, however, that Ballard is still alive. C.H. Cleveland, the undertaker in charge of the body, talked with Ballard, who said that his papers had been stolen from him several weeks ago while he was in San Pedro on a tank steamer. An autopsy examination made yesterday by county autopsy surgeon Frank Webb revealed that death was caused by a fractured skull and drowning. The fractured skull is believed to have been received when Hendrickson fell off the lumber dock at berth 228 Terminal Island while attempting to go aboard his ship.
Now, granted, doesn't match up exactly. And this guy seems to possibly be 10 years older than Hendrickson, because he said 1912. Hendrickson is supposed to be 38, and this guy said 1912 to 1930, which would be 18, right? So maybe he's off by 20 years or something like that. Like maybe they just wrote the number wrong.
Maybe
in the fucking newspaper article.
Maybe.
But they barely knew who he was anyway. He was traveling with stolen papers. Maybe it was possible they got his age wrong. I don't know. But regardless, I will say, if I was a ghost who was murdered and thrown in the sea, and the cops thought that it was an accident, I would be pissed too. But is that what really happened? Because in that same Ouija session, another big revelation was that apparently there had always been two ghosts in the house. One was of the murdered guy, which was pissed. And then there was another, nicer, non-threatening ghost who Jackie later decided was probably called John Damon. This is because she did not just name him this. This is because later, after moving back to LA the following year from her trailer in Weldon, she went back to visit her old house in San Pedro one spring afternoon for old time's sake. When she got there...
What do you mean?
What do you mean?
Did she still own the property?
No. She just went back to, like, look at it. You know, like, drive by it. Like, you
I
sometimes
thought you meant, like, stop by, went inside. I would be like, if I owned the property, I'd be like, who are you?
No. She just kind of went by to have a look at it. You know what I mean? And when she got there, she was shocked to see that a ball of light appeared before her eyes right in the middle of the day, and which seemed to intelligently lead her about 0.8 miles down Grand Avenue, which is a literal straight line down the street, to the Harbor View Cemetery, where it stopped and it hovered over the grave of Private John Griffin Damon before slowly disappearing with a calming sense of conclusion. So, looking into this guy, as I did, John Griffin Damon was a Civil War veteran in Vermont before getting married to Anna Frew in Mammoth, Illinois in 1875. This is like records that I pulled out. And then he was in Tilden, Nebraska until 1910 when he finally moved to San Pedro. According to Jackie's friends in the area, and as reported in the LA Times article, it was known in town in San Pedro that this John Damon guy supposedly was the guy who built the bungalow that Jackie was living in back in 1910 or whatever. And according to Jackie, that day at his grave, it felt like he was saying goodbye to her. So that's what she says. The real John Damon died from a paralytic stroke in 1913 at the age of 67. And according to the funeral record from that time, which remains preserved with the San Pedro Bay Historical Society, every date and every piece of information perfectly matches up, other than any sort of like definitive connection between Damon and the bungalow by name, which even the best news reporters at the cooler, successful 90s version of the LA Times could not find. So I submitted a request for the official records at great inconvenience to myself.
Dude,
Genuinely.
isn't it the most annoying goddamn shit in the
Literally
world? And sometimes you don't even hear back.
Yeah. So I couldn't find anything at all based on the names because there's no record of any owners of that property before 1988. And there's a high chance that it's not just coincidence that this house first appeared in the records of Old San Pedro as being built on the old Ruta-Cinda tract in what year but 1910. The very year Damon was meant to have arrived in town. So could he have built it based on that very meager connection? Based on what I saw for myself, yes. Did he do it though? Honestly, right now, as I'm telling you this, I do not know. But it is odd that I included a mystery from my hometown in Cornerfest, isn't it? Like,
yeah, it's almost like it was left out of something.
Yeah, like why did I go into such detail about all the various parts of this mystery if it's just a ghost story, right?
So I wonder if we'll find out.
If you're listening to this and you're thinking those things right now, that's so good. That's what I want to be happening right now behind the scenes. I think the act of discovery should be surprising and fun, no matter what. And by the way, I asked my mom about this since I was just born at the time, and she was in town. And she said that this haunting was like the talk of the town at the time. Like everybody was talking about this while it was happening. She said that the details she heard about it was the ooze, and it creeped her out. Like the ooze coming down the wall really fucking fucked her up. And that even she drove by a few times to look at it just to see if anything cool happened.
Did anyone sample the ooze?
I told you
do we have test tubes of it?
They took it to a lab and had it tested.
I mean, like to this day, do we still have
tubes of ooze?
I mean, maybe Taft does, but if he does, he hasn't said, or that there's no record of it. But he might have. Like that's something that he brought. He brought thousands of dollars worth of shit over there. Like the documentary is like legit. You should see. But yeah. What am I saying? I should go drive by it sometime next time I'm in town just to see. I'll be there next week for Christmas, right? Now, up next on the show, we need a short one. So here's one that I couldn't dive too deeply into because of an intense language barrier surrounding the story. But it is as far away from a ghost story as possible, almost like we want the audience to forget about what I just said for a while, especially the part about the Ruta-Cinda tract, and bring in a little real-world anxiety and intrigue Because if you're not emotionally mature, anti-capitalist, and interested in the world around you, you probably don't understand the show or like it very much. This next one is called CRYPTOPHON.
If you're not those, we still need you to listen. Don't
Please
worry.
listen and
Just
sign up at our Patreon. But if you're not, I'm sorry that it's hard. This is called CRYPTOPHON. Once upon a time, there was a guy called Tron. Tron was a computer hacker. He was really good at it.
No, dude, Tron is for the users. What are you talking about?
We'll come back to that in a minute. I don't just mean like he was a decent, respectable hacker. I mean like the Observer called Tron the outstanding hacker of his generation. I mean like his teachers nicknamed him the Master because they literally thought he was the Master. He was a genius. He was handsome. He had a good head on his shoulders. He was like a nice guy. He was the best there was at what he did, like Wolverine. He was a hacker with a soul. I like to use this type of simple language when I want to romanticize a story down to its most basic elements. But in the case of this story, however, it is not by choice because, like I said, Tron was German. And the large portion of this story happened in the 90s, which, just in case you relate to the world culture the way that a Tesla driver relates to the road when their GPS is off, this was before the Marvel movies came out. So nobody in Europe spoke that much English yet. So therefore, without much material about this written in a language I actually understand, and with my patience for Google Translate quickly waning after I tried it for a while, I booted Tron to Cornerfest and with him his beautiful child, the CRYPTOPHON. Because you see, Tron wasn't just the best hacker in the world, he was a hacker with a mission. One article about him from the year 2000 on ZDNet was opining about how American and European hackers are different. Like, for example, one of Tron's main claims to fame was a type of hacking called phreaking, which is all about like getting access to phone systems illegally or internet or whatever, or cable or whatever illegally. And Tron's biggest like freak hack thing was when he broke security on German phone cards so that people who couldn't afford German phone cards could take his clones and just make unlimited free phone calls with them. That's kind of what a phreak is, right? And it's necessity that is the mother of invention, according to the article, right? And in Europe, for people like Tron, hacking was actually more about that than writing nasty things on big websites and being a hacker-themed influencer teenager with like weird hair and crazy Kingdom Hearts clothes. So that's why he and many other hackers were a part of the Hackers Association known as the CCC, or the Chaos Computer Club, which is the largest hackers association in Europe, and whom, in their own words, see themselves as, quote, a galactic community of life forms, independent of age, sex, race, or societal orientation, which strives across borders for freedom of information. And basically, this means that they advocate and do hacks in the name of things like government transparency and the human right to communicate and universal tech access and open source software and entrepreneurship against capitalist control, stuff like that. And basically, they're just one of the most important, tide-changing, influential entities in the digital space to this day, and almost certainly the most important digital entity in Germany. So that's the type of stuff that Tron did. Fought against signal scramblers, and he worked for years to break through all kinds of encrypted TV, internet, phone services, and he became so important to that world that he sort of became an authority on it in a way, to the extent that at one point he was even challenging himself to make like real operational versions of these like sort of potentially devastating SIM card attacks that American threat assessment scientists were like just theorizing about for GSM phones. Like they were like, this would be shitty if somebody figured out how to do this. And he was like, can someone? And he
He's like,
and he did
challenge accepted.
And he completely achieved it. And so unfortunately, you know, for him, he wanted to demonstrate like, no, this is not just a conceptual threat. This is a threat that could happen tomorrow. That was his message. But the side effect of that was that as a result, the bad guys also were now able to carry out a lot of these things, which before were only hypothetical, which then caused the National German Phone Service, the Deutsche Telekom, and German law enforcement to pay a little bit more attention to him than they had previously, until eventually in March of 1995, which is like peak Hackers, the movie Hackers, he and a friend were caught by police trying to liberate a Deutsche Telekom public card phone from its booth.
Yo, that is peak Hackers, the movie.
He had a sledgehammer and he was trying to knock this thing out of a phone booth so that he could reverse engineer what the changes that they had made to it.
Do you think
still get around
when they took him away, he yelled "Hack the planet"?
This guy's
probably in German. He got 15 months probation for that, by the way. And around that same time, he was also a student at the Technical University of Applied Sciences in Berlin. And while he was there, he was toying around with the problem of encryption in an era of complex computing and how hard it would be to get something like a cryptographic program running securely on modern PCs. And eventually, he sort of came to the conclusion that external devices were a much better option for secure encryption, especially in terms of things like ISDN phone lines, stuff like that, like real-time type stuff. Because by the end of 1997, he started working on a simple proof of concept for this idea called the CRYPTOPHON, which worked. He actually got it working. It was simple. But by 1998, with his diploma in hand, he planned to develop it into a real-world working product called the Cryptron, which was actually probably going to be more work than inventing the original tech behind it in the first place. So basically, CRYPTOPHON was a real-time telephone encryption system. But the special thing is not the encryption itself, but rather the way in which the encryption is implemented using a discrete external device, which uses digital signal processors. And because everything was using little tiny microprocessors instead of crazy, cutting edge CPUs, you couldn't put a backdoor in. You couldn't fit the software onto the board in a way that you could corrupt the encryption if it's not part of the computer system. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in the end, it was like game-changingly secure communication. It was super cheap to make. It was already awesome, but the Cryptron version was going to fit on the outport of every PC forever. Everything would have been encrypted in a way where even DDoS attacks could be handled in seconds, even if nobody was there. You didn't even have to be there to stop the DDoS. So of course, if you extrapolate this out far enough, it starts to feel like Metal Gear Solid. What could be achieved if phone calls were impossible to be spied on? What horrors of censorship could governments create with automated internet censoring systems that were literally impossible to smuggle subversive ideas through? Right? Literally, what could you do?
It's scary because now we're in entering the age of when quantum computing happens, where encryption will be seemingly impossible to do because everything will be crackable.
Right. And what of the giant company this sort of tech breakthrough would inevitably create? What if in real life there really was a Tron who fought for us against the evil master control? How different would the digital world be if the white hats were in charge of the fucking internet? How crazy would that be?
There's a lot of things in our life. I'm like, how crazy it would be.
Honestly, the most terrific part about this. Honestly, the most terrific part about this story is the hope that I feel about it for a second before I remember that on Saturday, October 17th, 1998, after a summer of awesome hacks and travels through South Africa and Egypt, Tron walked out of his apartment, said bye to his mom, told her he was heading out, and then was found 5 days later in a park in Berlin at age 27, hung with his own belt.
Damn.
Yeah. Now, of course, in the years that followed, what happened was that there may or may not have been some evidence of foul play, but not enough for the police to believe it would lead to anyone specific. And eventually, the whole thing sort of landed in the press as this nebulous, sort of disappointingly convincing suicide thing, where if you look at the facts, it really does seem like maybe he just wasn't into living anymore, right? That's really hard. But meanwhile, the CCC, the Chaos Computer Club, who have come out time and again saying that Tron would never have killed himself and that his characterization in the news as a depressed, unstable youth who hung himself in a park as a misguided cry for help was not just an insult to the man, but a painful wound inflicted on the people who cared about this man, right? It's like a fucking disgrace. That's how they feel. So they're furious because the police wouldn't waive the 48-hour waiting period before making him a missing person once he was missing. So they waited 2 days while he was missing to report him, even though people were actively worried about him, mostly because on October 20th, which was 2 days before he was found, let me see, wait. Yeah, he went on the 17th, he left the house, and he was found 5 days later on the 22nd. So 2 days before that, on the 20th, he was found. The police were at his house, confiscating his files and equipment, claiming that the two things had nothing to do with each other and were simply meant to be a coincidence, as the two operations were carried out by two completely different teams. Like, there's the one team that was dealing with the fact that he was missing and the other team that was investigating him as a hacker, right? So they came and took his shit 2 days, 3 days after, like while he was gone. Let's put it that way. However, at the same time, there were a significant number of people in each camp who felt the opposite. There were plenty of prominent hackers who were willing to concede that maybe the simplest explanation is the most likely, and he did do it to himself after all. Maybe the bus driver did pull the shit lever. And maybe everyone's paranoia about it was just like their shock getting the better of them. Like maybe it's just
It's
hard
tough.
their hero dies. Maybe that's what it is. But
It's
there are
hard
also,
to, like, I mean,
Yeah.
like, just like from a mental health perspective, like the idea of like the people who kill themselves, who end up going through with that, are usually people that you don't see it coming. And it's usually because they're very good at fucking hiding it for a reason, that they are depressed.
yes.
So yeah, it
which
can be
is-
that way.
Yeah, it's devastating in that way. But
Mhm.
there also were plenty of cops who thought that the idea of Tron's work bringing a hitman to his door was not out of the question. And with rumors of the Russian mafia wanting Tron's secrets swirling, or one officer saying that, quote, Tron may have underestimated the financial value of the information he uncovered. You know, either way, foul play or not, one fact remains. Once upon a time, there was Tron, a guy who figured out something pretty neat that would change the world, and in some small part, even take it out of the hands of the greedy, rich monsters at the top of the world. And now he's dead. And just as many people think he did it himself as think it was murder. And that's how you know CRYPTOPHON was probably legit as fuck. So that's a pretty short one. But let's now let you guys in on another aesthetic choice that I'm making here. Obviously, sometimes these things get away from me, or we have to put the episode out before I'm fully happy with what I've gotten out on the page. But that is just the nature of the beast, right? Ideally, when everything's going to plan, I want a single episode of Cornerfest to feel like compressing time, where we ease our brain into its new role as an information receiver at the top with a slow burner or two. Then you hit them with a couple rapid fire ones, and then we, whatever. Feels good. Filled with a lot of big images, memorable moments, but where less shit happened. Like, hopefully that felt almost as big as the ghost story, even though it was like not even close to twice as long. And then, yeah, that's that. It kind of makes you feel like you're speeding up till suddenly you're at the point where you're almost swimming in crazy stories, almost actually drowning in it. And then when it's over, you hit a long one again, and it's almost like a chill rest, except it's Chilluminati, so you still get more story. And that, my friends, is what it's like to be in my brain when I am having anxiety. Anyway, speaking of time travel, it is time to see Our Lady of ZEITOUN.
The Lady of the Tomb or a Zaytoon?
ZEITOUN.
Okay.
ZEITOUN.
No,
yeah.
like a little
Zaytoun.
accent to Zaytoon. You know?
ZEITOUN.
It sounds like
ZEITOUN.
a 1970s movie that has a little erotica in it, but it's really for the story.
Yeah, Our Lady of ZEITOUN.
Mhm.
Now, again, the way to do Cornerfest right is to constantly try and run as far away from the aesthetic of the previous story as possible for the next one. So for our next little quick guy, let's try a mystery that is set in the unexplored corners of a genre that you've probably seen a million times. I've come close to stuff like this myself once or twice in previous Cornerfests, or even a full episode or two, which, of course, I'm talking about mysteries that happen to Christians. It's a good genre of mystery that I think is underrated, because and Our Lady of ZEITOUN is particularly fun when it comes to mysteries that happen to Christians, because number one, it's set in fucking 1960s and 1970s Egypt, which is a dope setting, and second of all, it actually isn't just Christians this time, which is kind of interesting. There's a lot of different people from a lot of different religious backgrounds that all saw this, and that's what I think is interesting about it. Now, I also don't mean to sound derisive towards Christians when I say mysteries that happen to Christians, because I'm really not trying to sound derisive. But it's kind of like that new movie, Wake Up Dead Man, the third Knives Out, which is like a God movie kind of, where it's like Christians are interesting to me because for us, we're like, the truth is out there. But Christians are like, the truth is that magic is literally real. And I know that that is the case. And that is we're not that different in our lives, but that is a really different
Catholics in particular are the magical Christians. They're the magic Christians.
And as much as
that's why I grew. That's probably why I like this shit. As I grew up as a Catholic in the Catholic world, my just rituals. Every mass was like turning the bread into actual flesh and turning the wine into actual blood.
Yeah,
that is the Catholic
Too,
transfiguration.
yeah. I was totally Catholic.
It's always been interesting to me that magic, evil, Jesus magic, awesome,
tight.
Awesome.
And it's roughly the same thing, except one, I guess, is for good, but it's the same thing, really.
So magic. So the
King
reason
Solomon
is
like
magic
the main
is like
guy.
Magic is like, selfish powered, whatever. Jesus' magic is God working through you. You're not the one doing the magic.
Sure. Oh, no, I know that's just
is
the
the
justification.
one doing the magic.
But you could say that I'm channeling like warlocks aren't magical. They are channeling their,
Do enough. Let me tell you, do enough mushrooms, you start feeling like you're channeling some shit
That's what I'm
sometimes.
I think about that all the time.
It's crazy.
But don't worry, y'all. Don't worry, y'all. We killed Jesus for that magic, so.
Yeah, he died for us.
Yeah, just like Tron.
Don't use magic, asshole.
We troned Jesus too. Listen, all this to say, as much of a general reputation Christians have for being like conservative, prudish people, in some key ways, I do think it also makes them pretty open-minded, if you know what I mean.
Pope Leo's pretty sick, honestly.
Yeah. And just in case you don't know what I mean, let's see if I can't help you understand a little better, because to me, whenever I hear these sort of Christian mysteries told, I must admit something about how specific and how completely weird they are, and the sheer number of confident, assertive, affirming witnesses there are, always makes them feel a little bit more legit to me. I don't know, like that stare one. Remember that? That was an interesting one.
Yeah, that's a high strangeness.
Yeah.
High strangeness.
Yeah.
Often. I mean, the Andreessen affair, the fucking alien abduction with that Christian woman and all that shit was very Christian imagery.
Yeah. Changes things. Keep that in mind. To me, this is more legit than the kinds of people that are just crazy that are out there. We'll talk about one of those later. It's not like Christians are crazy. It's it's like a thought out choice to just believe in something else. You know what I mean? It's not like they got there through their own insanity. They're very together people for the most part. It's just interesting to me.
Yeah, I mean, look, if anything we can say on this show is that whatever you believe in, as long as it keeps you going and makes you happy and you're not a piece of shit, I don't care. Have fun.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
Be a good person. Treat others with respect. Go nuts.
That's cool with me. Yeah.
Whatever.
I just think it's interesting that there's such a huge demo of the country, and you don't think about they all are no, that is real. And that's a huge different way to go than how we normally go.
Yeah. That's the Methodist in me who's dude, yeah, no, whatever, man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I'm a Catholic. I saw Jesus every day when I went to church. Why did you do this to me? And I was like, I know, I'm sorry. All right.
Crying and apologizing.
We had a lot of rainbows and shit. We'd show up and they'd be
that is not
everyone's welcome.
We had gold and fear.
Gold and fear and guilt.
But I actually like
Stations of the Cross.
I'm fond of I'm fond of Catholicism in my life. I don't think the org is my favorite, but I'm fond of what role it played in my life. Anyway, stay tuned. So yeah, it's in Egypt. The word means olives. It's one of the 8 districts of the northern area of Cairo. Apparently, according to Coptic tradition, on the run from King Herod, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph also came through ZEITOUN at one point, or at least near it. And probably most importantly for us today, even though you've probably heard more people mention Our Lady of Fatima, the sun miracle one, which I've talked about on here.
With the 3 prophecies.
Yeah, or the Our Lady of Guadalupe or Our Lady of Lourdes.
Is that also 3 prophecies? How many prophecies we got?
No, the Fatima one was the 3 kids, and then there was the big sun miracle.
Right,
the other ones
there's one more prophecy that will be revealed. Right,
yes, the secret one that they told the Pope or whatever. Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. This one, it's really ZEITOUN from April 2nd, 1968 to May 29th, 1971, which was the site for not only the biggest Virgin Mary miracle of the 20th century, but possibly the biggest one ever, since it happened for huge crowds multiple times a week for fucking years. Here's Jesse with a quote from an article about it published.
It's going to be one of those crying statues or something? What is it?
No.
Yeah.
No. Here's an article about it from the Catholic Exchange for Jesse to read.
This was not something just witnessed in a mystical vision by a few. It was a supernatural experience perceived by massive crowds for years. In addition, this occurred in the predominantly Muslim country and at a Coptic church, which might be why Catholics are less familiar with it. The Blessed Virgin Mary was witnessed by hundreds of thousands of people, including Copts, COPTS, Catholics, Protestants, Muslims, and even secular Marxists, like the former Egyptian president Abdel Nasser. This supposedly greatly influenced him in his relations with Christians, who at the time were being targeted. Red crosses painted on their houses to mark them. This was also a time of rapid expansion of Islamic fundamentalism. Perhaps Mary had come to mollify these tensions against Copts and other Christians in this very vulnerable time. Egypt had recently been defeated by Israel 10 months earlier in June 1967 in the Six-Day War. The ZEITOUN years were a turning point from the 67 war to the Camp David Accords. Finally, a peace treaty with Israel in 1979. On the one hand, and the rise of Islamism and Muslim Brotherhood on the other.
Yeah. So this was like a kind of watershed moment for like some religious tensions and some release of religious tensions. It's kind of interesting. And obviously in this area of the world, it's not ever very relaxed religious wise, but it was kind of a beautiful moment, this sighting. And anyway, speaking of Coptic Christians, back around 1920 in ZEITOUN, there was this guy, Tawfiq Khalil Abraham, who owned some land in town where he was excitedly planning to build a nice hotel. But then one night, while he was sleeping, he had one of those really vivid dreams. Except, unlike my dreams where I'm in a weird resort that I know is on fire, even though I can't see the fire, and a dirty pile of blankets at my feet is actually a filthy old witch who crawls up my body and chokes me with her crackly white insect fingers.
Are you okay?
That sounds like some sleep paralysis.
That is a normal dream, and you guys know it. In Tawfiq Khalil Abraham's dreams, he was visited by who else but the Blessed Virgin Mary. She told him that actually he shouldn't build that hotel, and that instead he should consider building a Coptic church there in her honor. And that if he came through on his part of the bargain, that someday she'd do some kind of miracle there later on down the line. So immediately he got up, got to work on that church. And by 1925, the Coptic Orthodox Church of St. Mary was all set and ready to make history, except it took like 45 years for Mary to like come back. So that's kind of
yeah. Time's different when you're outside of the three-dimensional space. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And we'll talk about that maybe later in Cornerfest. On April 2nd, 1968, two Muslim guys were working as bus mechanics in a garage nearby the church. They said they saw what they thought was a nun who was dressed in all white, who was getting ready to commit suicide by jumping right off the top of the fucking church. They freaked out. They were like, "Don't do it. Like, lady, come on. It's not worth it. No, please." They were saying stuff like that to her, right? And they called the police, and people were like, "What the fuck?" So like people started like coming because it's like, kind of a bustling area because it's in front of a church. And the police were like annoyed by this because the crowd was starting to get really big. Nothing to see here, yada, 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 that kind of thing. And pretty quickly, it looked like that was going to be that. But then suddenly, some people from inside the church came out and were like, "Oh my God, she's so bright. She's like glowing. The fuck?" Like, they're like, "Is that Mary? Is that the Virgin Mary?" And then by that point, sorry, like.
What if it was actually the Virgin Mary still contemplating suicide, though?
Dude, that's like a fucking H.P. Lovecraft story.
Can't die ever.
Yeah. I can't stop talking about the guy. And so they said it's Mary. At that point, everybody's like, if the church says it's her, it's her. And nobody was relaxed. Everybody was freaking out. And it just ended out of nowhere. She just disappeared like after a few minutes. So that was the first time.
For those who are curious, by the way, Coptic churches are just an ancient branch of Christianity that kind of was one of the very first ones after Jesus' death, about 150 years later, basically. And I think their founder is the author. Supposedly the founder is the author of Mark, the Gospel of Mark.
Yeah, it's a whole other sect. Let's just put it that way. It's a whole other sect that's not fucking. It's not really
ancient.
that.
It's old as fuck.
It's not really that popular over here, but it's a big one.
No. Roman Catholicism is kind of what took root out here.
Yeah. So they disperse the crowd. The thing goes away. 1 week later, on April 9th, it happens again, and another crowd forms. And again, it stops after a few minutes. But after that, appearances start ramping up until it's happening, like I said, multiple times a week, until eventually the Coptic Pope, which I didn't know was a thing, Pope Kyrillos VI, sent down his little delegation under Bishop Gregorius, Bishop of Postgraduate Studies of Coptic Culture and of Science. And just a little over a month after the first sighting, on May 4th, Pope Kyrillos officially confirmed via statement that according to the church, these apparitions were real. And then the Ministry of Tourism starts printing pamphlets about it. People start flocking to ZEITOUN. We are off to the races, baby. We have a years-long Virgin Mary sighting. And here is Mathas with another quote for you from the Catholic Exchange, which I'll remind you is about the Virgin Mary and not some kind of weird encounter with an alien, because, of course, there are no similarities between that and what Mathas is about to read.
No, none whatsoever. I'm excited to read this. Despite the length of the apparitions and the number of witnesses, the Blessed Virgin Mary did not speak or deliver any verbal messages. She maintained an attitude of prayer, bowing toward the cross and blessing the people. Mary was seen gliding slowly about the domes of the church, sometimes standing for 2 or 3 hours in the same spot, and at times kneeling before the cross on the roof. She acknowledged the people's presence by smiling at the crowd and blessing them with her hands. Mary had long white and blue robes and a veil of bluish white light. They could see her garments moving in the warm night breeze. She had a dazzling crown on her head with a halo of bright light. Sometimes the witnesses saw her with the infant Jesus, or sometimes with the 12-year-old Jesus, and other times with St. Joseph. Still, other times, she was seen carrying a cross or an olive branch, a symbol typically for peace and unity.
Yeah, and even though you used completely like all religious imagery, there's just something about the way that whole description is phrased that it just sounds exactly like you reading an account of an alien encounter.
The Fayetteville incident with Chris Bledsoe and the lady in white.
Yeah, exactly.
Who healed him of his stomach problems.
Right.
Like, was this like a nice female presence?
Yes.
Some refer to her as the divine feminine.
Yeah.
If we're talking about all this as what some people call capital P phenomena, like the phenomena as it encompasses ghosts, aliens, and whatnot.
Everything.
Again, if everybody here, if consciousness affects reality, and everybody here believes they're seeing the Virgin Mary, and then reality, like whether she's actually there or not, like that the effects of what they believe to be seeing start happening, is a whole conversation there.
Yeah, exactly. There is no better place for something like this to occur than Olive Town, Egypt, because according to various accounts, some nights there were up to 250,000 people coming to see this thing per night. And yet, as always, and rightfully so, I might add, some people were not so sure that this was actually happening. For example, according to the Wikipedia, the only report of this event from someone who was both secular and spoke primarily English came from Cynthia Nelson, who at the time was a professor of anthropology at the American University in Cairo. She went to the church twice that first April and again on June 1st. And though the people around her were all saying it was Mary, Nelson didn't necessarily feel that the big flashes of light that she was definitely seeing, or the weird glowing shape that she could see up there between the trees was definitely the Virgin Mary, even though she conceded that, quote, the source of the light was a mystery, for the streetlights had been disconnected all around the church for several days. She just wasn't like, it's Mary. Like, some dudes were like, I can see her teeth. And other dudes are like, I don't know. So consider
this interesting. So again, you compare to the phenomena as it is, and think about Rendlesham Forest, the two people who saw the ship, but they definitely both saw a ship, but they both saw different versions of the ship in some way.
I was listening to a writer's workshop by Alan Moore the other day. He was talking about how words kind of are the basis of our consciousness in a way, because you can't really have something until you can conceive of it.
Yeah.
And so
words are the idea that words are a virus and a prison to constrain your imagination is also a fascinating idea.
Yeah. But if you think about the train film that played I think it's Edison or a French guy.
You're talking about one of the first movies played and everybody jumped out of the way because they thought they see a train coming at them on film. They'd never seen anything like that before.
Yes.
And so as it comes to the frame of the camera, everybody gets scared and moves.
Yeah. When modern society is all around it, that story sounds kind of just funny, right? But if you think about what it must have felt like to not know about that movies exist and then see that,
Right. Because anything you've ever seen move toward you in your life is actually moving toward you. There is no 2D presence in their world beyond like a book.
It's like when you watch the videos of people putting on VR and they fall over or like hit. Yes. Like, it's a new experience and you don't know how to react.
And your brain, brain
and
doesn't know what to do.
If you can like wrap your mind around that idea and then take it back to like caveman times, right? And just imagine like what it was like to just like witness things in caveman times with no way of contextualizing it or explaining it or anything like that. And then somebody draws a fucking horse on the wall at eye level.
And you're like, oh my God, I know what he's doing.
You're like,
you can communicate.
No, you're like, I was in a cave and I saw a horse and it was floating. Like I saw a horse. You're like, how did I see a horse? Like, how could that be
frozen in time? Yeah.
I don't know. There's just something universal about that experience that I don't think we're quite able to totally grasp. If you think about Frankenstein saying Victor, 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 it's like that. It's like the same thing.
Great movie, by the way. I'm so glad we went to go see that.
Yeah, that was good stuff. That was our Halloween.
Frankenstein.
That was what we did right before the show. We went and saw Frankenstein.
Yeah, it was sick.
And I met Mathas's like hilariously opposite brother. It was like very
yo, everyone must understand. Meeting Mathas's siblings is one of the craziest experiences. The difference between all three is
it's like somebody made it. Yeah. It's like it's like somebody invented a game, and then there's like 3 characters that you can pick, and you don't want to have any of the same experiences between the 3 characters.
It's what I've never seen anything like it. It's
incredible what trauma can do to kids.
But yeah, okay. So
we're all 2 years apart too. Like we're just
not even
and my
that
sister
far
are 2
apart,
years, and my sister and my brother are 2 years. I'm 4 years from my brother.
Like the level of drama. Like I can't. Y'all don't understand.
My brother is like the one that makes sense to have been doing a show in his life.
Yeah,
he's the outgoing.
I feel like could just replace me on this show and we'd be fine.
Yeah, that's what he did. He was a theater boy. He was like, that's still what he manages, like that kind of shit still. Like,
it's so funny. Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Trust me, it's not lost on my siblings. I'm the one that ended up doing a podcast. They're both like, we have that conversation like once a year and be like, that's really weird.
He said it to me while we were talking. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I love both of them. They're great people.
Yeah. Really
I love my siblings are amazing. They're so good.
But yeah, so just think about that. Like everybody had their own sort of like conception of what the Virgin Mary is. And you see like this light and you're coming in with a rational mind and maybe you've read a lot of stuff. You're a professor of anthropology, right? You've seen a lot of images of Mary, like from a lot of different cultures. Some people haven't. Like, I don't know. There's something there to that. Or consider this version of events from the sociologists Eric Good and Robert Bartholomew, who cite the recent war with Israel as softening up the relationship the people of ZEITOUN had at the time with just like the human world and mundane terrestrial systems of social order and belief at the time. Like they just got out of like a crazy war and it primed them maybe for one of the all-time largest cases of mass hysteria on record, right? According to this guy, positing that, quote, it appears that the Marian observers were predisposed by religious background and social expectation to interpreting the light displays as related to the Virgin Mary. Like maybe they only saw Mary because that's what their religion was, right? Like, and honestly,
yes, I mean, we've talked about this before, that people see things based on their past experiences and that affects how they perceive things. Sure.
Yeah. Rashomon, right? Yeah. And honestly, it's along those lines that it's worth noting that Mary is a big deal in Islam also. If you may not know that, and is in fact directly referenced in the Quran as the greatest woman to have ever lived, which I think some Christians might be surprised to hear. Also, I think it's worth mentioning tectonic strain theory.
It's the same cinematic universe.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think it's worth mentioning tectonic strain theory. Do you know what that is?
It sounds familiar, but it's not something I'm...
it's proposed by seismologist John Durr and psychologist Michael Persinger, and it puts forth the idea. It's not just about ZEITOUN. It's about a lot of different things, but there's this idea that ZEITOUN saw some seismic activity leading up to this time, where the sightings happened, and according to tectonic strain theory, it's possible that this was somehow the cause of the lights because similar phenomena have been recorded elsewhere, where there's like some kind of geomagnetic wave adjustment that ripples through all our heads and we like hallucinate shit for a while, or you know the God helmet.
And yes,
you put it on, it stimulates your brain, and you have like a religious experience, right?
What is that? Is that a real thing?
Yeah. It's electrodes that know where the religious experience button is in your brain, and so if you
Google it, look at it. It looks like you probably think it looks Jesse. As
Wayne,
ridiculous.
It looks
as
like
it
Wayne
sounds.
Zelinsky. Yeah, and it's literally like the idea is that something like this is happening on a mass scale to people. You know what I mean? Like, and it's causing them all to see these crazy lights in this one area because, part of it is maybe hypnotic suggestion. Part of it is like, there's actually some sort of magnetic wave thing happening, something like that. That's the basic gist of what tectonic strain theory is. And that's something that maybe they think it is, because it's really hard to come up with a theory that accounts for 250,000 people a day going and saying, yes, I saw Mary there, when there really wasn't anything there. Seems crazy.
If you're curious, listener, what the God helmet looks like, imagine the kind of helmet someone would wear while driving Herbie the Love Bug.
Yeah.
Yep.
And like, it looks dated. It looks like an old timey helmet from like the 70s. Although that's not old timey, but you know what I mean.
Well, this is the 70s.
But it wouldn't,
but I'm
if
saying
that's
like
something
that's
that's
what it
happening on a grander scale. Like, I only just learned about, apparently, for astronauts in space on the ISS, sometimes a particle traveling 99.99999% the speed of light, but isn't a light particle, will like hit that one of them or whatever, and they'll taste like metal in their mouth, or they'll have like a weird flash of light, like stuff that does like happen to them, like because you're out there not protected by the ozone layer of the Earth,
right?
And that ISS can only do so much. So something that on Earth that could do that for sure. I could definitely see like a magnetic storm or something causing.
Gravity, the movie, like drove that shit home for me. So
I saw that
hard.
movie. Yes, I saw that movie. It was a good
that
movie.
movie is so scary.
Terrible date movie. Don't take a date to that movie.
No, that's not a good,
that was a wrong choice.
At the end, I took my
like
date
that
to
would
the
trigger
movie.
similar thalassophobia fears for you, Jesse.
I took my date to the movie, and when I looked over at the end of the movie, she was gone.
I hate you for that. I hate you for that in every possible way.
Oh yeah, because like, oh yeah,
pretty good. Although admittedly, yeah, that was our second and last date. So yeah.
So kinda
gone.
I was just jaying off by myself watching Gravity.
Damn.
All right. And anyway, that's the gist of this. There's a bunch of photos and millions of witnesses. I gave you the Wikipedia link now. You can look at it. The picture is basically what all the pictures look like of this shit. You can find a million pictures of it, but the one on Wikipedia is probably the most famous one. It's weird that the sky is black in it, even though it seems like there's sun on everybody's head. Just saying. But yeah, you guys can decide for yourself what you think it is. I don't know about you guys.
I mean, okay, so like what we're seeing is like you see the church. You see what it seems like there's a light kind of like filtering over the church, like it's exposed. Yeah. And then there's a round circle, bright round circle with like a oval dimmer version of the light. And it looks like it does almost look like a
60s like nativity scene doll of Mary.
Yeah, if you click and open it, you can see there's a dimmer part in that brighter top circle that looks like there could be a person shaped silhouette. There's even a little point around the chest area where maybe the hands would be if it was praying.
I see them.
I see that, but like that's also like it's weird enough on the fact that it's just light being weird. I don't know if it's the Virgin Mary, but I can easily see that classic imagery of the halo that encompasses the head that just like blows it out.
That's my biggest problem. It's
too classical.
It's like clearly Virgin, like you can see like the praying and the person and for those who are, again, just listening, imagine the building, and at the top of the building near where the cross is this light being that is praying towards the cross.
This will be in the description also, by the way. You can
the only issue I have is it so clearly looks like it could be the Virgin Mary, simply based off of medieval and classical art. Like it looks like the artistic interpretation
it looks like a votive candle image of Mary. But the thing is, there's light shining on everything. In the foreground, you can see like heavy light shining down on the people that are down by the gate. And and the sky is pitch black. And I just don't get that because it also looks like the church is lit up. It looks like something's been done to this photo. I don't know. I don't know.
It's a weird photo, but it's certainly interesting.
I know. It's fucked up. Those Christian mysteries. Something about them. Sometimes they freak me out because they seem a little real. I don't know why. But a million people saw it, and maybe that's just a insta-tulpa. You know what I mean? I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. Like you have the thought, like, it has the imagery of something that's medieval when that's not what they would have looked like. But if that's what everybody believes that they would see when they see it, was that what they're going to see? Because that's what they would find as recognizable. It's weird.
If I tell you you're going to see something, you're going to try and make the thing you see into it.
Yeah, the human mind is always looking for patterns like that.
Yeah. And even with that said, the idea that if you were to say, like, this is religion, because it's belief, is the same thing as when we talk about ghosts or aliens or cryptids or whatever, because much like conversations with Mathas, and I'm like, well, that's not real. And he's like, well, this is one of those things that if I were to say to someone who truly believed that's not real because it looks like a painting, right? They would say, well, God would realize that we wouldn't know what the Virgin Mary would look like.
Right.
So we would get the interpretation of the Virgin Mary and we'd all recognize it, which makes it like an impossible argument to have.
Yeah. It's just like the Coke Santa, bro. Or, burying dinosaur bones or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's that. I don't know about you guys. I'm feeling a little peckish now at this point. Like, I feel like I could go for a slice of key lime pie. This next one is called HORSELAUGH. This one is called
HORSELAUGH?
Yeah. So another...
Time out really quick before we start. What do the two of you think a horse laugh sounds like?
A horse laugh to me is like somebody who just laughs like those people who, people who like sneeze.
Oh, you mean you mean a person who laughs like a horse. I was wondering what a horse laugh like.
Scooby-Doo. Exactly like Scooby-Doo.
Like that.
Exactly like that.
Perfect.
Horse laugh. So another secret rule of Cornerfest is that every episode needs its own super dank, strange pothead on the computer, Captain Coochie's key lime pie ass mystery on it. Where it's like not quite a creepypasta, it's not quite a narrative, but it kind of splits the diff between the two. And there's just like a lot of information, and you sort of like get this sort of like forensic look at something that happened on the internet at one point. And I think that's interesting. And I think that as long as the journey is weird, you know what I mean? As long as the journey is like surprising the whole time, I think, that's the thing that keeps that why people like these. And I know a lot of people think that the first mystery that I did like this was Captain Coochie's key lime pie, but I think probably it was Andrew WK. That was the first one that was like, every time I said something, you guys were like, wait.
The Andrew WK one was weird enough that it actually got Andrew WK's attention.
Yeah.
After the episode came out.
And then
that was crazy.
Unattention.
And then he married Kat Dennings, and does that make him part of the MCU?
Tangentially.
He is one.
Tangentially?
No. He's part of the Chill CU.
He's Eskimo Brothers with the MCU.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So
because everyone knows Kat was just rubbing face with everyone on that set. She was just there.
No, not everyone, just the MCU concept.
Yeah, just the notion.
But like
as a whole.
Yeah.
So the thing about,
if we believe hard enough
what are the
that
butterfly
MCU
kisses
is a god,
where you eyelashes?
If we all believe hard enough that if we believe that the MCU is an entity as a whole, will it become an entity on its own?
Is that what the Celestials are?
Is that what the entire season of She-Hulk was about?
Yeah, don't forget about Marvel.
Don't forget about Marvel. Let's not add an intellectual layer to She-Hulk that it does not deserve, my friend.
Don't forget about Marvel today, and don't forget about
the Marvel Tulpa.
Don't forget about Marvel, and don't forget about
the original Chaos Magic Queen.
No. No, Chaos Magic.
Witch herself?
There's nothing worse for Chaos Magic than Wanda Maximoff.
Oh, she was like, she is Chaos Magic, though,
She was like, no more respect from your peers.
I think that Blackgar Boltigan did that for you on his own.
You don't say anything about that.
Sorry.
And the thing about the Andrew WK episode was, which everybody kind of forgets, is that it was basically solved by the end, and that maybe Captain Coochie's key lime pie was solved by the end too. So it wasn't even really a mystery. Like it kind of was, but it wasn't really. This one is definitely weird, like both of those stories. And I definitely think it has the kind of bizarre, mundane solution you'd never expect. But the reason it didn't get its own episode is frankly just because this is like not a funny story by the end. There are unanswered questions by the end, and lots of people deleted their posts about this once they figured out what it might all be about. And trust me, it is a wild ride. So buckle up. Remember the content warning I gave at the beginning of this episode.
The fact that people deleted their posts makes me think it's like child related.
It is. Also,
excellent,
but it's not how you think. Okay, so
how do you think we think?
Maybe a little bit.
I don't want.
Don't worry about it. I also want to say this is where I got the idea for time slices from, because even though they eventually became a fan favorite feature of the Manson episode, once you see this segment, you will understand why I came up with the idea. And last November, I'm going to just start. Last November, Reddit went crazy over this site that seemed to show these strange videos of a girl sleeping in her bed, which was discovered on a creepily titled website called HORSELAUGH.com. I went to my site.
Didn't we talk about this girl?
I don't know. No, I don't think so.
There's a lot of
there's other girls on webcams that we've talked about.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it is a genre.
Yikes.
Unfortunately, it is a genre. I went to the site myself because at the time I didn't know what I was looking at, like back in the day, like a year ago. But I'm not sure I would go now, even though I believe it's down now. But I will show you guys a short clip of what it looked like. But I'm not going to be putting any links to that site directly in any of the notes, just like YouTube videos about it and stuff this time, because frankly, I do not think that the general public should be looking at this anymore. And there's nothing like visceral or upsetting about this clip, so don't worry. Nothing really happens in the clip. But nonetheless, kind of tell the people what you see about this clip that might make the internet go nuts for a little bit.
Okay, so it is a room that looks like it is okay. It's a room that looks like it would be like in a school or a YMCA. It's just like a completely square room where there's a girl in a bed, and there is on the wall one of those tack boards, it looks like, and then there's a vent or something on the ground, and a dude walks in. I assume it's a dude, opens the door but doesn't come in the room. The door stays open and the girl stays in the bed completely unmoving. And then a light in the hallway goes out. Girl still unmoving. Maybe she's sleeping and or staring directly at camera. I don't know.
Yeah.
Is this Epstein Island?
No.
Okay.
Luckily, no. So
it does look like just a tiled room, like what I would imagine is like just a public bathroom. There's a grate in the floor, like
it majorly has the vibe.
Two mattresses just stacked on top of each other on the floor.
With that said, the interesting thing that I think is so fascinating is when you think about like stereotypical, and this is from a guy who watches way too much Law and Order SVU / Law and Order. I love you, Mariska Hargitay.
Come on the show, Mariska.
I love you, Mariska Hargitay. But like, if you are kidnapping someone who you're going to kill or you're treating poorly or whatever, usually those rooms are a mess and the bed's a mess and the sheets are a mess. Maybe there's not even sheets and barely a pillow. This is like white bed, white bedspread, white sheets, white pillow, comforter, and it all looks sterile level clean.
Yeah.
Which is very weird.
Almost like it's set up.
Obviously,
the window's boarded. Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
I thought that was
I can see nails.
I thought that was a tack board, but I guess that's a boarded window, maybe. Yeah.
No, yeah. If you look at it, you can see the nails at the bottom and the sides. So it looks like it's a boarded window.
Yeah. So that's the reason people were worried about this girl. It's obvious, right? This is a alarming thing to find on a website. And based on what they found after a little Google foo, just like kind of running with the general aesthetic of these clips, most people were of the opinion that what they were looking at was some type of homebrew alternate reality game. And indeed, several particularly famous ones over the years have gone viral, which actually do feature a similar setup of short videos of someone who might be held against their will in a featureless room. So it makes sense. Mathas mentioned that we did one or two on this show before. And I remember when I was in college, I can't remember the name, of this one, but it must have been around 2010. There was a guy sleeping on a cot that was chained to a wall. And the bit in the comments was that he didn't get to eat unless someone figured out which superfood he was going to get from like that they were talking about in the video. And eventually it got so uncomfortable that YouTube just shut it down. Like they like stepped in because people were reporting it. So there's a lot of weirdos out there that are like skirting the edge of what is an ARG and what is just torture. So that was one that made me feel weird. But I digress. The best way for you to experience this story as an audience member, I think, is for me to like place you in the POV of somebody who maybe saw this first weird clip on Reddit and then went diving into the Wayback Machine yourself so that it unfolds in chronological order. So let's try that now, aka the OG time slice. And again, I'll give you guys out there and Jesse and Mathas the links to all these things. I'm sorry, I'll give you guys the links, Jesse and Mathas. I will not give these links to the audience, but you can kind of be their eyes for this. And so that I don't have to keep getting up in all these people's business. The first backup is from June 2001. Looks exactly how a site looked at the time if you registered a domain with GoDaddy, which was only 4 years old at the time. Somehow this feels even older than the internet from my childhood, even though it's really not. I was like 13 at this time. But yeah, you see it. It's a very underfeatured GoDaddy site from June 2001. But then it looks like it says
this has been registered.
Yeah, then it looks like GoDaddy went through the .com bubble and lived, because the next backup of the site is from December of the same year, and it shows a colorful and extremely retro landing page for GoDaddy now. Lots of 90s colors.
Yeah, it's when GoDaddy finally had a logo and stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
Nothing super surprising though. That's just kind of how GoDaddy looked at the time. It's the page that come up when you park a domain and like you haven't put anything on it yet, but it's coming, right? But then, so that's December 2001. The next backup is from a couple years later in 2004. There's four backups.
Graduating high school this year, 2004, feeling good.
Yeah, there's 4 backups from May to July, but there's like an empty file.
Just parent directory.
Yeah, it's like an empty file directory.
Yep.
Kind of on a million sites, but at least somebody did something, right? And then all of a sudden in August, people saw that 2 files had been added, both of whom reference in their title something relating to the quote GARCSA 25th reunion. And then the first picture was never backed up. The second is clickable and seems to lead to some kind of old-timey photograph, which to me, and a brief reverse image search seems to be some kind of battle or moment from the Civil War. Do you guys see that?
Yeah. Those who are curious, there's a bunch of people standing on or sitting on a knoll watching a battle. Now, this could be a reenactment, or it literally could be a battle from the Civil War, because history nerd moment. The first couple of battles, people thought it was going to be like a fun spectacle. Chill. So they came out to watch.
That shit was not a fun spectacle for anybody involved to watch. Also, I love the kid mugging the fucking camera at the bottom.
But he even has like a little, like one of those Civil War hats on.
He's got the little flat top hat. So then that happens. I think it's a Civil War. Then in September, a ton of files appear in the directory. Mystery Kodak 2 Guts, Kodak C Ordinary. No idea what that really means. Leads me to believe it's more photos, maybe of cameras. Not sure. None of these links are clickable. So at this point, I'm just thinking this is some kind of weird random file dump for a guy who likes old pictures. There's not much else to go on here. But then we go to the next backup, which is from December of 2004, and we update it again. This time, the Kodak files are nowhere to be found, but those 2 files from August are back, and now they're both clickable, and they've been retitled to Gettysburg Reunion, North Side and South Side. So that's pretty cool. So what they seem to be is some kind of reunion of Gettysburg soldiers from both the North and the South reuniting.
So 25 years after probably the battle of whatever.
Like, which would explain why the kids have the hats at the time.
Yes, exactly. So I'm just going to go ahead and assume that's what they are, because the only other new folder there is called IPHO in lowercase, and it's a folder which at first I freaked out about because this was almost 3 years before the iPhone first dropped. But when you click on it, it's actually some kind of flyer for something called the International Photographic Historical Association, which is a group that buys old camera equipment, pictures, and underdeveloped film, which started in 1985. It still seemingly has a website up today, which looks like an old, slightly upgraded version of the one on the site. Here's that site right in here if you want to see that. But I think it just means that whoever was using this site was kind of a photo enthusiast and was at one point using this to store things, and maybe he made this site. I'm not sure.
Yeah, if you click the various links, it just is like, yeah, we collect old cameras and we document old ass cameras. And okay.
Yeah. Maybe the person who made the site was keeping a copy of it. Maybe they made it. I'll tell you right now, I only have the slightest notions about this, and I already know the whole story. In contrast to 2004, 2005 only has one backup. It's from January. It looks exactly the same as the one from December. And then we skip like 8 years, and there's not another backup until June of 2013. And now things are like totally different. And instead of the directory, the site has now become a rudimentary text-based web page, though it doesn't seem to be much more than simple HTML email forms for 4 different people called Alan, Audrey, Tammy, and Dan. To me, it seems like a family maybe, and suddenly I'm thinking, oh, this is probably some nerdy mom or dad who bought this URL for fun, and they're a hobbyist internet coding, and they use it as like a cute family zone online, which again, a lot of time in mysteries that are like this, you see something like this, right? But then, if there was a family, I think something happened between Dan and Tammy around this time, because in all the updates from 2013 to March of 2016, every backup that there is, they all show HORSELAUGH as just some sort of simple yellow website, which at the top, just the one small sentence, "Hi, Tammy, remember I love you more than you will ever know, Dan." To me, kind of gives divorce vibes. Please don't say her full name, as it is the title of this webpage. I'm trying to keep them at least a little bit anonymous, but if you see it, just don't read it. And it just says that message. "Hi, Tammy, remember I love you more than you will ever know, Dan." So that's weird. And that's in March, but then in October, things start to get a little crazier. So here we are. This time, the site has become, I don't know what else to call it, an extra incorrect false fact sheet about a link between autism in children and a certain and a certain bacterium that commonly infects the human gastrointestinal system, known as H. pylori. You can go over the whole sheet if you want, but really, thanks to the YouTuber Scare Theater, who has a great video on this and looked into this already, we know that the only legit info on this whole shit is that H. pylori does cause stomach ulcers, and that autistic children do often have stomach issues. Those are 2 separate facts that are true that are on this paper, but literally everything else on the paper,
causation.
It's trying to say that H. pylori is
and it uses the typical like flimsy argument of like, it's being diagnosed 1 in 91 now, but in 1918 it was 1 in like whatever. And it's like, happened? Yeah, well, that'd be because science has advanced and we now know how to recognize and diagnose these things way better than we did before, you moron.
From what I can tell, this number is 100% of those tested. That's it. That nothing is 100% of a thing.
No, exactly.
In reality.
So those 2 facts are the only true things. H. pylori does cause ulcers. Autistic children do often have stomach issues. For everything else, there's bastard card. Is that good? Was that a joke that I should have written into this script like I did? I thought that if I said it off the cuff enough, it would seem like it was an improv, but no, it is not an improv, and neither is this. It's also written. That's the point that I'm trying to make about the power of aesthetics. All right, here is another link for you that goes from that year to 2017 now, and maybe some payments lapsed or something because the site just basically becomes a for sale sign for a bit. And this continues into 2018. And then there's no backups at all between 2019 and most of 2021 until December 6th, when the shitty fake autism fact shit comes back. And then nothing in 2022 or 2023.
Is this going to be like turning into some dude running an autism cure fucking camp?
No, not quite, but you're not far off.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, nothing even in most of 2024 as far as backups go until November, where we finally caught up with the story breaking on the internet. And now we can see, just as people were discovering, and actually there's much more information on the site now than at any other point in time. So here's the way it looked when people found it. In addition to the folder with the clips of the sleeping girl labeled orbs, which are time coded down to the second with a timer showing on screen, which means that even when they were originally recorded, it was in 1 minute clips, and they were recorded at the time that it says on the clip. That's like forensically true of these clips. A couple of times a man can be seen peeking in the door or walking by, but nothing really seems super sinister about him, at least in the clips. And honestly, if you look at the title, I think maybe in their own way, these are actually just sort of like ghost hunting clips, because if you do actually take the time to look through them, which I don't recommend, by the way, you do in fact see like spirit orbs manifesting in the images. And that is like what the fucking folder is titled. So maybe he was checking to see if autistic kids have ghosts or something. Then there is a broken link page to a page with some vacation pics from the painted desert. Then there's that same bad, fake, wrong autism fact sheet. There's a CGI bin folder that you obviously can't access. And then finally, a link to a page with a bunch of broken image links called 2007 Vacation, which literally does seem to be an account of this family road tripping from Oklahoma to California to visit relatives in 2007, that it was written by Tammy, and that Alan and Audrey are the kids. So that's a thing that we probably know from this. I read the whole thing. To be honest, it seemed like a pretty nice vacation all told. Toward the end, there was this weird part where Tammy hurt her knees on a ride at the boardwalk, and then it was hurting her so bad while she was driving that she couldn't read the map fast enough for Dan. And Dan laid into her like so hard that she like wrote about how bad it made her feel. And then later Dan like hurt his foot, and she was like, I'm glad he hurt his foot. But other than that, nothing really out of the ordinary. I will remind you that I do think that something happened between them sometime around 2013. Just based on this.
The orbs folder, if you watch all those videos with the volume up, it 100% sounds like either a hospital, but since it isn't a hospital room, I'm going to say maybe like a psych ward. There's people having conversations of a technical nature around.
Yeah. So by December 26th, 2024, all the files had been removed. The directory sat empty. Just the parent directory sitting there empty. Though people did find a bunch of other websites the same person ran. And now today, if you try to go to HORSELAUGH.com, it's down altogether because I think he felt seen in a way they didn't want to be seen. And now, I was out of options. I didn't really want to dig into this man's life any further than anyone else had, just in case he was like a nice, oblivious guy who didn't realize the internet could see his website. But for better or worse, most mystery YouTubers don't really have that hang up, which is why within a month of the story breaking, the YouTuber Scare Theater, who I mentioned earlier, had a pretty good video on this, had already been mercilessly chewed out both over the phone and via email by Dan himself in a way that made him feel like the dude had a few screws loose. And then he got also Dan's much calmer, rational son, Alan, on the phone, even though these days he doesn't really want to be known by who his father is. And with pretty good reason, too, to explain everything, starting with the girl in the bed, who, as you may have already guessed by now, is what I would call like debilitatingly autistic. Not that all autism is not debilitating in some ways, but once
it's a spectrum.
Once we get into this, I think you'll understand what I mean by debilitatingly autistic.
Absolutely.
Here's Jesse with the quote. And again, this is a normal guy, not a scientist. So while he's definitely being emotionally honest, let's not judge him too much on his tone or his academic accuracy, because unlike me, this guy's not trying to be good or entertaining. He's trying to be informative about what's going on.
By the way, with all that said, even if it's just an autistic child, that room is like atrocious. I'm so upset that it's an empty room, dude. Whatever. All right.
You're going to be mad by the end of this no matter what.
That's my half sister. That is her bedroom. Now, the reason why there's nothing in her room in that is because, like I said, she has the mindset of a toddler. She can be a danger to herself. She has seizures. So that's why they have a camera in there. But why he posted the video online? Completely messed up. The autism delusion, he shouldn't have put that online. He claims that H. pylori caused her autism. He also won't treat her for the autism. I mean, he won't accept treatment. He just wants to continue to believe that she's going to snap out of it one day and start talking. I don't know what orbs means, but orbs typically, I believe it has to do with spiritual lights that pass over cameras and stuff like that. I know that he has some really, really spiritual beliefs about the other side and purgatory and stuff like that. I mean, he's had delusions his entire life. To him, if he says it's true, it's true. Growing up, I was tossed around. He would throw me out the door. He would drag me around the house by my shirt. He threatened to punch me a few times. He never actually did, but he did slap me repeatedly to the point of bloody noses and everything like that. Even a black eye once.
So fuck this guy, basically. Scare Theater then goes on to ask about his half-sister's well-being. And Alan says that thankfully Dan is not her caretaker, her caregiver. That's Alan's sister, Audrey, who is a good person, understands her, knows how to communicate with her in a way that makes her feel good and safe and calm, which is good. Because what if I told you that's not even the real mystery at play here? That's just background for what the real mystery is. Right? That's weird, right?
Okay.
Because see, during the month or so that the internet was absolutely obsessed with this guy, people rather easily were able to find Dan's last name themselves and very quickly discovered using Whois tools that he also ran a bunch of other websites, like I said earlier. And that some of them had weirdly specific names, like the first and last names of some of his kids and himself, boycottem.com, godbeforeus.com, oklds.com, another directory type site, which also includes that bullshit autism paper on it in some backups. But also others have a folder on them which seem to be referencing the missing 116 pages of the original Book of Mormon, which, if you're not Mormon, you may not know have been lost since 1828 and are often referred to as the Book of Lehi. Obviously, there's a lot more to what the 116 pages are and what they represent, but that is enough to get you through this story. Anyway, now that you know that, here's Mathas with a quote from Dan himself from a forum on MormonDialogue.com from 2019 about a weird turn Dan lives took a few years later. I mean, a few years earlier, not later. That's impossible. You couldn't write about something that was not happening yet.
In August 2013, my son Alan had been invited to church by Abby, a girl from his school, and he asked me if we could go on Wednesday night. Not being much for any specific religious sect, I despise them all equally. I reluctantly agreed and asked him what church. I knew I had a couple of Mormons way back up the family tree, but I didn't know much about them otherwise. But I didn't really object, and I went mainly to get a look at the type of girls my son liked. When I saw this one, the phrase swinging for the fence came to mind.
No wonder his son hates him.
Yeah, no shit, dude. Jesus, what a... Anyway, that was on August 21st, 2013. I got a copy of the Book of Mormon and took it home to read. By Saturday night, I'd read enough to be absolutely fascinated, but found a lot of terminology hard to understand. So on Sunday, I took my whole family to see if we could find someone to give us more information. Out in the hall, I collared two young men with badges declaring them to be Elder George and Elder Zirkle. Is that how you say that?
I would say Zirkle.
Zirkle? I try to give it more fanciness than Zirkle, I guess. They didn't look very elderly to me, but I decided to play along. I asked them if they would mind stopping by our house sometime and explaining some passages in the Book of Mormon to me and my family. There were 25 to 30 people standing in the hallway chatting, waiting for sacrament service to start, and they all went instantly silent from shock. It was as if those old E.F. Hutton commercials, when E.F. Hutton talks, I thought, I don't know what he's talking about. E.F. Hutton commercial.
There's this thing where there's like a bunch of people milling around, and then it's like E.F. Hutton starts talking, and they go,
oh, okay,
like, E.F. Hutton talks, everybody listens, that kind of thing.
Yeah. He continues then. I thought maybe I had overstepped some sort of doctrinal boundary, so I offered to pay them for their time and gas if they would only come over and answer my questions. A brother Kronk, fucking excellent name. A brother Kronk saw the look on. I hope he's like Kronk from fucking
Squeakum,
the Mormon for Cusco.
Squeakum.
A brother Kronk saw the look on my face, clapped me on the back, laughed, and informed me that the process usually worked the other way around. The missionaries usually go out to people's homes and tried to get them to come to church. We're not really used to people coming into the church and trying to get the missionaries to visit their homes. That was the OKC 5th Ward's introduction to the family. Oh, I should have
bleeped that, Dean.
Over the next 94 days, I put those missionaries through a litany of trials and tribulations, ending or maybe beginning with myself, my wife, my son, and my daughter being baptized one right after another on November 23rd, 2013.
That's like fast. This started in August, and he baptized his entire family as Mormons. And from there, people were also able to locate his username on Reddit, which led me to a post in r/xmormon, in which a random user asks about the pages, just like because they're an interesting topic in the religion. And then another random user pipes in and mentions this info, which Jesse will read for you now.
Given the topic, I should chime in and say that as a member of the church from in my former ward, given the topic, I should chime in to say that a member of the church from in my former ward believes these 116 lost pages were in a safety deposit box belonging to a family member, and that he turned the contents over the church in late August or early September of 2017. I don't know the exact date, and the church has it in their possession since that time. He only looked at the first few pages, but those pages reference a new Star Fox game will be coming soon because my uncle works at Nintendo. It references the Book of Lehi and several hand-drawn maps. No one knows if they are authentic yet or not, but it was taken serious enough that local leadership received multiple calls from church HQ about it, and this ward member was flown out to California multiple times by sponsors, not the church itself, plausible deniability, to retrieve the contents of this safety deposit box. Rumors were rampant that the contents of this safety deposit box being handed over to the church 4 months ago, although things have been eerily silent since that time. Call it bullshit or some type of Mark Hoffman hoax if you want, but I know several people directly involved with this. It is legit that something with 116 pages was turned over to the church, but unknown whether it is the real deal or not. Time will tell.
Yeah, so they're saying that they heard that somebody got access to the missing 116 pages, silently turned them over to the church, and there's like politics around why they can't be released. And then suddenly in a comment, it's revealed that the guy who claims to have found the pages is none other than Dan himself. And Mathas here will now read you what he had to say in response. I'm going to drop you one half of it, and I'm going to drop you the other half.
First, I secured the sheets to their rightful owner. They do not want to take physical possession of them because they are worried about the possibility of one of my relatives putting forth a claim to ownership. Possible, but not likely. Be that as it may, they will stay where they are until someone a lot smarter than I gives me more guidance. Second, I read the first line of the first page. I was told someone named Bruce Porter looked at these in 2016 and pronounced them genuine. Beside the fact that Bruce Porter died in December of 2016, I have never spoken with.
I think it's supposed to say or, but he just wrote of.
Okay. I have never spoken with, to, or about him. My source for that data is less than reliable in my opinion. 3, I was never flown anywhere by anyone for any reason, period. I don't know where that story originated nor why it continues. There was a call made to my bishop in late 2015 by the head of the church security, which shook him up pretty good. Neither the church nor anyone else has spent any money on locating or securing these papers. The only people involved in their transport are not church members, but friends whom I could trust. 4, eerily silent because I am sick and tired of this whole thing. I only check in and post when another piece of erroneous information is brought forward. 5, I am personally convinced that these are the real thing, but that basically means nothing. I am an engineer, not an archaeologist, nor a document expert. I also know that based upon the tiny script I saw, that the 114 sheets, 228 pages I saw would amount to something more than 2,000 pages if published as the current Book of Mormon is, footnotes, annotations, etc. The sheet size is roughly 8 inches wide by 17.5 long, written up on both sides. 6, I have not, nor ever will sell these nor take money for their recovery. The other documents included promissory notes, would cause immense damage to the church, in my opinion, so those will also remain secured and are also not for sale. 7, the Kirtland banknotes are being evaluated and graded now as to condition and value. I may sell some of those in the near future. 8, Sean Littlebear does not have anything to do with these sheets. I know brother Littlebear, and we get along well. However, he does not have any influence over me regarding this matter at all caps. 9, as to the maps, I know where one of them goes and will go there when I have the time and money to do so. Yes, I will take friends with me. No, not you. I wish all these experts would simply stop with the conjecture and ask me the horse's mouth, and sometimes the other end, depending on my mood, whatever they wish to know. There is no pretense about me. I do not lie, although I may not choose to tell you the truth. I also do not scare easy and don't embarrass at all.
I have never truly felt like, of all the people involved in this story, this is the one that needs the most help.
Yeah, this guy is not well.
No.
There's been some sickies on this show, but this guy, it's like another world. So now both Alan and other Mormons have made statements which seem to discredit Dan's claims in small ways, especially Alan saying that Dan got obsessed with the 116 pages way before he ever found them, which makes this whole thing a lot more sus. But the idea that Dan is just some weird outsider isn't exactly right, because the more you look into him and his connections to the church, you'll eventually find that also Dan at one point found himself involved with Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell, who had some pretty extreme beliefs.
Jesus fucking Christ, the Daybells.
Pretty extreme beliefs regarding coming in doomsday, and decided that certain people had to die to prevent it, like Lori's estranged husband, Charles, who was shot by Lori's brother, Alex, and then her two kids, Tylee and JJ, who first went missing and then were eventually found dead and buried at Chad's place.
Because they were
Ohio
like demon possessed or going to be demon possessed.
I literally remember
I
literally remember doing multiple minisodes on these crimes as updates were coming out. And we slowly learned the whole weird story about how far they deviated in their beliefs from Orthodox Mormonism, and how Chad believed he'd lived multiple past lives, and that he also had a prophecy that the world was going to end in July of 2020, which he also convinced Lori of, and then also that he was a god, and that if she didn't get rid of her family, she couldn't join him in his role as the right hand of doom. But anyway, there was a subreddit made by people following the case. And on it, there's a post which mentions Dan by first and last name, using the fact that he met with Chad and Lori in 2017 to talk to them about the 116 pages, and thought that they were already in a relationship, as evidence that they had been together way before they said they had been, which is interesting. However, according to that same post, Dan also mentioned that they were a little crazy and self-obsessed to the point that they wanted to like bring finding the 116 pages into like a book that he was already writing, and kind of like get Chad like popular that way somehow. So he cut ties with them pretty quick, according to him. But it was suspicious enough of a thing that when Scare Theater, the YouTuber, found out about it, he could not resist asking Alan about it. So here's what Alan said for Jesse to read.
So those murders happened back in 2019. He kicked me out whenever I was 18, which would have been in 2016, 2015. So I don't know too much about that. I do know this. I remember hearing Chad Daybell's name come out of his mouth at one point. I know that he has specifically tried to distance himself from those murders and everything. I also know that is right up his alley, but I do not have any evidence of any kind of claim or support the fact that he clearly had anything to do with it. So yeah.
Jesse added the editorial clearly for the record. And with that, the story of HORSELAUGH.com comes to a close. Was Dan just some delusional, paranoid, faux religious abuser who was totally tone deaf about what he did with private footage of his sleeping bedridden daughter, whom he refuses to really help? Probably. Or is there even more random bullshit to find out in between the times we have already had archival backups made for? Like I said, not the most narrative or necessarily mysterious story, but, you know, I guess it all sort of depends on what you believe. Did this guy get involved with Chad and Lori Daybell? Like, what was going on? Did he find the 116 pages? What happened with that? Where are the 116 pages?
The reason he'll never sell them isn't definitely not because he doesn't have them.
Yeah, exactly. And that's HORSELAUGH. And now that's been 5 nice, fresh, crazy topics, totally worthy of this year's Cornerfest. Let's do one more.
Correct.
Let's do one more, right? And what better way to close us out today than a short, sweet story about the end of literally everything?
Okay.
This one is called
The Apocalypse Planet.
So this one's kind of a new type of mystery that we haven't really tried before on the show, but I've been reading lots of H.P. Lovecraft lately, as I already said. And other than discovering that he's even more disgusting of a person than I remembered than he was on the inside, it also got me thinking about, like, have there been any instances of cosmic horror in real life? And yeah, even though Jesse sort of covered some of the stuff that I'm going to talk about already on this show, which that kind of sealed the deal that I was never going to do a full episode on this topic.
Gotcha.
But you basically did a bunch of this already. I thought it was pretty neat anyway, what the other stuff I found. Looking for Mathas, it starts right in his wheelhouse. So please help translate for Jesse et al. If we need it. Basically, around 1995, this lady from Wisconsin, her name is Nancy Leader. Or Leader or Liar? Isn't that funny that that's what her name is? Fun name. Anyway, she founded this website called ZEITOUN to like share her childhood experience.
Oh my God. I know. Oh my God.
Yeah. She shared her childhood experience of being contacted by a group of aliens called the ZEITOUNs from Zeta Reticuli. And they put a chip in her brain so they could talk with her at a distance. So here's Mathas with the quote from her bio on the site, which he'll read for us and hopefully provide some context for us as needed if we need it. Here you go.
Nancy became aware of her contactee status in 1993 and the potential for being a communicator of the Zeta message in the midst of a full life with a family and a full job. As a contactee, Nancy participated in the hybrid program and met one of her hybrid children. In preparation for her communicator role, Nancy was given life form introductions and introduced to MJ-12 at an early age. Good, she got to meet the majestic 12? That's crazy.
At an early age.
At an early age, Nancy spends her retirement time and money on getting the Zeta Talk message out. Requests for interviews take top priority. She quit a professional job in California in 1999 to move to Wisconsin to walk the talk. Born in Wisconsin, Nancy returned to her grandparents' homestead where she first met the Zetas in the woods as a young girl. There, she gardened, saved seed, raised chickens, and tried to be an example of how people should prepare for the coming changes. As the Zeta Talk message is threatening to the establishment, who fear the populace will panic, Nancy deals with a lot of flack.
She does, and she does. Anyway, in 1997, during the perihelion of Hale-Bopp. Hale-Bopp? How do you say it? Hale-Bopp?
Hale-Bopp.
Hale-Bopp, yeah.
Okay, the perihelion of Hale-Bopp. She first came into the public eye because of statements she made about the comet, which made it all the way to the New York Times, and which Jesse, the progenitor of this story in my mind, will read for us now.
The Hale-Bopp comet does not exist. It is a fraud perpetrated by those who would have the teeming masses quiescent until it is too late. Hale-Bopp.
Quiescent?
Quiescent? Yeah, I don't know. Croissant?
Croissant?
Poisson?
Nothing more than a distant star and will draw no closer. This is...
Yeah, she said no.
That held out real true. That held out real well.
Yeah. Also on top of this, she also explained that the reason anyone was even talking about Hale-Bopp is that it was fed to the media, distracted from the real story, which the Zetas told her is actually the imminent emergence of a huge object from deep space known as Planet X. And that Planet X was here to fucking kill us all. So here's Mathas with another quote about it from her site.
Planet X classic. You could still, if you really want to, you could dip into the Planet X theories to this day.
We're about to.
The inbound Planet X was sighted at the coordinates given by the Zetas in early 2001, imaged by infrared twice in January 2002, tracked by CCD images in late 2002 to early 2003, and thereafter photographed by amateur astronomers around the world. That a middle-aged woman with a high school degree who does not even know which end of a telescope to look into could pinpoint the RA and DEC of the brown dwarf. I don't know what that means. Planet X is astonishing and speaks to the validity of Zeta Talk.
I don't know what those words mean either, but I'm sure that one of our many astronomer followers will hit us up just like they did at the live show. That was actually great. Of course, as you may know, if you're into this kind of thing, Hale-Bopp did in fact come closer. And it was one of the brightest and longest perihelions of all recorded time. Nancy eventually took down those first two sentences of that post that were quoted. But the specter of Planet X remained. And as with most doomsday prophecies, people were still somehow biting. She said the enormous deep space object absolutely dwarfed the Earth by a significant factor, and that on May 27th, 2003, it was going to get so close that the Earth would stop spinning for 6 straight days, and that this would immediately cause the Earth to spontaneously go into a magnetic pole switching event, which would fuck up the entire planet's crust on an atomic level. So when May 27th, 2003 came and went, Leader said that she had actually lied about the date to fool the powers that be, and that she would not be revealing the true date so that she could stop the world governments from having enough time to declare martial law and trap everyone in the cities where they'll die. And eventually, just like in a Lovecraft cosmic horror story, eventually Nancy became aware of a strange foreign scholar with bizarrely upsetting ideas about a set of alien gods who came before the ones we have now, who lived on a planet out past Neptune with the fantastical name Nibiru, which this mysterious dark doctor from a land which no longer exists, who, without the slightly veiled racism, is the fringe author Zechariah Sitchin, who was really from Soviet Azerbaijan and Mandatory Palestine.
This is so supremely Coast to Coast, Zachariah Sitchin, like
Yeah.
all of them. This is like, I must stress, during my college years, during the years where I like worked at Ralph's Friendly Market, stocking shelves, I worked overnight and I listened to so much Coast to Coast. This is like reliving all of that, and it's just as insane.
Yeah, it's so this guy shows up talking about Nibiru, and he's from literally a land that no longer exists, Soviet Azerbaijan and Mandatory Palestine, both places that aren't a thing anymore, and said that the planet Nibiru was on a long elliptical orbit which lasted like 3,600 years. So that's why we don't see it very often. These godlike aliens, he wrote, who also seemingly created us and visited us all through antiquity and helped found the ancient civilization of Sumer in modern-day southern Iraq, were actually their ancient deities, the Anunnaki. The Sumerian,
we're in the Anunnaki now.
The Sumerian deities, the Anunnaki. Also possibly known as the Nephilim from Genesis.
They're everything, baby.
The Eternals from Marvel Comics also. And they created humans to replace them as laborers for this planet. Once they themselves rebelled against even greater beings, which, come on, which storyline have I betrayed so far? None of them, not even the Eternals. And that the original civilization was actually destroyed by nuclear weapons when Earth was used as a battleground for an alien war in 2024 BCE.
Battlefield Earth, dude!
He even said that on one of its ancient previous orbits, Nibiru had smashed through a giant superplanet called Tiamat that used to exist between Mars and Jupiter, which then broke in half and half of it became the asteroid belt and half of it became Earth. And it even knocked one of Saturn's moons all the way out of whack, and that became Pluto, all because of Tiamat and Nibiru. And in 1996, Nancy went on her site and was like, "Oh yeah, that's this. This is that's Planet X. That's the same thing." And a lot of people ran with that. But by 2010, when Sitchin died, even he was like, "No, it's not. It's going to be back in like 2900, not now. The time doesn't match up." So when that connection kind of fizzled, they decided that maybe Planet X / not Biru was actually coming to ring in the Mayan apocalypse on December 21st, 2012. And even Nancy jumped on it for a second, claiming that in late 2014, Obama had tried and failed to announce that Planet X was passing near the sun, but that he was stopped by the shadow government.
Thanks, Obama.
Always the shadow government.
Yeah. And then, as you know, if you've read some Lovecraft, comes the arcane hidden knowledge that barely makes sense. And sure enough, by the time this Planet X Nibiru thing hit the virality point in 2017 again, another Nyarlathotep called David Mead, who described himself as a Christian numerologist, whatever the fuck that is, using the geometry of the pyramids and certain passages in the Bible to like divine the dates of the planet thing's arrival, which according to him was square with the woman of the apocalypse's predictions from Revelations on September 23rd, 2017, and claimed that the solar eclipse a month earlier of August 21st was a sign that it was true and it was about to happen. So at this point, NASA has literally been accused of covering up evidence so much that they felt they had to issue an official statement denying that a giant celestial object was coming to destroy the Earth. And proper Christian writers were making it very clear that a Christian numerologist is not a thing. But after a few more false starts into 2018, it eventually fizzled out again. And Planet X, once again, was what it always probably should have been, which was a weird, dumb, impossible joke that's worth enjoying as fiction, but had no business at all trying to be real. And yet,
oh no.
And yet, there is a strange clustering of orbits where extreme trans-Neptunian objects, which orbit 250 times further from the sun than the Earth does, tend to make their closest approach to the sun in one sector, which is consistent with a clear tilt on their orbits, which, along with many objects becoming straight up detached from Neptune's gravitational influence, does seem to suggest an undiscovered true ninth planet, sorry Pluto, and which based on the calculations would likely have a mass something like 5 to 10 times the size of Earth. And that's all real science. And strangely, there are real respected astronomers like Konstantin Batygin and Michael Brown who think that the object might have originally been the core of a different giant planet which was blown out of its orbit by Jupiter as the solar system was first forming. And others, even real astronomers, real credentialed astronomers, who think it may be some sort of rogue or captured planet from another passing star or the leftover gaseous drag of a disintegrating solar nebula, which to me are just as wild sounding and even kind of oddly similar to the descriptions of the 12th planet and the Anunnaki story, right? Like maybe even more so than Nancy's original stuff. So anyway, there's a shitload more to this. Lots of other completely rational and supportable explanations for what it could be as well, which are probably better read and looked at for a long time while scratching your head than trying to listen to me tell you them, because it's like pure science and numbers at that point, especially this far into like one of the longest episodes I've ever written. But while I'm sitting here telling you that legitimate researchers like Brown put the likelihood of Planet 9 actually existing at 90%, and even other less involved in the creation of the theory putting it at close to 70%, I would say that it is not an idea to brush off. Even Jim Green, a director of NASA's Science Mission Directorate, which is the cool part of NASA in my opinion, even though he also said it could be a number of other things, said that the evidence is stronger now than it has been before. And, you know, that's cool. And also he said that one of the other things it could be is a primordial black hole, which might even be cooler. Which is like a little black hole that's in our solar system and fucking shit up. Which to me is crazy. Excuse me. But yeah, that's pretty much where I'm going to leave this one, except to focus on one last bit of the story, which I think the audience will find to be a nice little cute bow on top, which is that, as I've been saying, most people refer to this possible unknown planet as Planet 9. But that slowly, a growing number of supporters of Clyde Tombaugh, the discoverer of Pluto, have come to see it as a challenge to his legacy that this thing is called Planet 9. And ironically, one of the most popular codenames floated since at least 2018 for what to call it has consistently been Planet X. And that, folks, is where we're going to end part A of Cornerfest 26. Thank you for listening. Please sign up for Patreon. Please buy our merch. We really need it. But also, before I go, I wanted to give you a little teaser for next time.
Doesn't even make any sense. Planet X would be Planet 10.
Right.
Stupid.
But it's not X. It's like Planet X. It's like Planet question mark, basically.
Doesn't check out. We got to bring Pluto
like
back.
Racer
Like
X.
algebra. Like algebra.
Like Racer X. But yeah, I want to give you a little teaser for next time when we start with a story in which Mathas will voice the main character, and which, from my perspective, is really all about letting the show itself guide you sometimes when you write, you know, by sometimes providing what in small doses is probably the easiest, most satisfying aesthetic flourish of all. And that, my friends, is fan service. So here's Mathas with a teaser for next time.
3 years ago, one like, so it begins. Am creating a tulpa. It is a being that you give birth to inside your mind. It is sentient and have a consciousness, have a conciseness of his, her, its own. The tulpa am creating was originally inspired by My Little Pony's Friendship is Magic and am a pretty hardcore brony. So I stumbled upon a post on 4chan and My Little Pony. This is how I found the this person can't spell.
Yeah.
Existence of tulpas. And there's actually a whole community on this phenomenon. I have to confess, the first time I found out about this, it really had me uneased. It's so rare that something can distress me this much. The reason for this stress was because deep down inside, I've made up my mind. I wanted a tulpa. However, tulpa are beings that will likely stick with you for as long as you exist. And it's a very serious thing. My original motive has been because, ooh, I want a real life pony for myself, or ooh, it'll be so cool. But I quickly discovered that there's so much more to this than I first realized. Yes, the physical shape will be a pony, inspired by the show My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, because those ponies are actually really beautiful beings, brony or not. And I have reached the conclusion that having a tulpa will transform my life into something entirely new. It will add another dimension. I really want this. I need this. This very Tumblr will let me write and report my progress. For some reason, I know this will help me create a tulpa faster.
See you guys next time.
Anyway, me and
and my wife were sitting outside indulging on our porch one night, enjoying ourselves. I needed to go to the bathroom, so I stepped back inside, and after a few moments, I hear my wife go, "Holy shit, get out here." So I quickly dash back outside, and she's looking up at the sky in awe. I look up too, and there's a perfect line of dozen lights traveling across the sky.